to the Safety Doc Podcast with author, radio host, and nationally recognized safety expert, Dr. David Perrodin. Join us each week as we discuss the best and most bizarre practices in safety preparation and crisis response. Follow Dr. Perrodin on Twitter at SafetyPhD. And remember, the truth will keep you safe.
Hey, everybody. It is your good friend, Dr. David Perrodin from down here in the infamous North Star Recording Studio. It is Monday, October 24th here in Wisconsin, another 70-degree day. And I got a haircut, so I'll take the headphones off. So, yeah, it looks like I just enlisted in some kind of army. And yeah, so here we are. I'd like to get my hair cut short. It had been quite a while since it had been cut. So yes, haircut. And when I went in today to get my haircut, my stylist, who's cut my hair for 20 years, she said, "You've lost weight." And I've noticed that because my shirts are fitting kind of looser and pants, able to cinch the belt up a little bit. I noticed my sport coat when I wore it on the weekend was just a little more roomy, but that's a good thing. That's because I was biking more, been doing more stuff I like outside, just a lot of heavy physical work, and also just, not eating junk food and stuff like that. So all of the good reasons why I'm down on weight, but I would guess I'm 200 or slightly under 200. I weighed in, I think at 2 months ago at my checkup, I at 206. I think I'm less than that now. And at one point I was 240, for quite a long time. So, but a good weight for me, is probably anywhere in that 180 to 200 range. So, hey, it is a good friend, Barnaby Sanchez. Welcome to Z. It's looking good, Doc. How's it going, Doc? Looking good. Hey, thanks. Sharp Doc. Hey, appreciate it. It's Ron Wayne. Good evening. It's Mrs. Wayne, and she's going to shout out to Bolo. So there's Bolo. And somebody new. I haven't seen you before. Mile High Ronin, and of course, Solitude Surfers. So, hey, everybody. Also today, earlier this evening, it's again, Barnaby Sanchez. I purchased a new camera. I ordered from Logitech. What is it? The Brio, the Logitech Brio, the business model. And I was able to get 15% off. So it's an expensive camera. So that kind of rounds out, like, really in the last month, what'll be $700 worth of upgrades in the studio. The new microphone, the headphones, the headset, and then, of course, this camera. So the new camera will allow me to adjust a ton of things, right? It has 3 different angles. So it'll be like this, or it could be wider angle or wider. Your light saturation, and just it's so much more modern with the technology. Watched a ton of reviews on it, and it certainly seems like it's the right decision to go with all glass lens. So this one isn't bad, and this will continue to be my backup camera, but the new one also has threads, so I can put it on a tripod. So I might not use this angle where it's sitting on top of the monitor. So the 3 monitors in front of me, I might use a smaller tripod and kind of move it off to one side. So I'll have to see, or at least I have that option now, where this will be my backup camera, and then my old 920, I think I'll just give away. So if you're interested, I have a 920 which works. I never really liked the angle on it. I think I have a case for it too, but I don't know. So yeah, if you're looking for like a webcam, I will likely never use that one again. So Um, anyway, so yeah, the webcam I have now is about 10 years old. Still works pretty well, but what I don't have is the ability to change to like go wider and narrow, and then also the white balance is off on this. So progressively over more and more videos over the years, things are just getting faded out in the back. And right now, I'm using third-party software with Webcam to kind of adjust that. If I didn't have that going, this is what the camera would do right now. This is what it would look like. So right here. So you can tell, so here's what the post-production software looks like that I'm running the third party. And that should just be automatic with the Brio. So I'm looking forward to it. It was time. It was time to do kind of the upgrades, and I wanted to do them all at once. So microphones been great. Been listening to the shows. Really love this mic. That was a great decision. These headphones been great. So I wanted to bring in some super news here. So Wednesday night we have Bending Ballistics on the show. So 2 nights from now we have Bending Ballistics. We're going to talk about harming teachers. So what do you think about that, right? And Bending Ballistics, get into that. We're also going to talk about the rise of high school trap shooting and competitive shooting teams, where literally 5 years ago it was 3 states that did this, and now it's 34 states. So it's this hockey stick of growth, which is great. My district where my kids go to school, they have a trap shooting team. So he coaches in that. So we're going to talk about that. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. Also, when I teach my school legal classes, we talk about Title IX and student participation. Trap shooting has some of the leagues are male, female, but the teams can be mixed gender. And then also, for example, Bending Ballistics was making me aware of, and someone who shoots on competitively, but they're in a wheelchair, right? So you have this access for people with disabilities, a higher level of access than you have for some other traditional sports, let's say like a football or like a baseball, right? So anyway, we're going to get into that, which will be a great show. And then on November 21st, Monday, November 21st, Mike Dahl, the head of Wisconsin Esports, is going to be the guest on the show. So that's awesome. So Mike is going to be on, and he's going to talk about the phenomenal growth of esports, what esports is. And I'm really impressed by the work that Mike has done. And we also have this hockey stick where there weren't a lot of teams with esports, a lot of school districts, and suddenly there are in our state and countrywide, and how kids are getting scholarships now. Universities have esports teams. So this is really amazing stuff. Now that show will be a little bit shorter. So Mike will be on, I think, at 7:30 on the 21st, and then we'll go for like an hour or maybe an hour and 10 minutes, and then that show will end. And I might start another show after that of kind of like a follow-up, but just to respect his time. He's whoa, I just wiped out my Venkman just fell over, and my Wreck-It Ralph. So I'm gonna wreck it, which he did apparently. So but yeah, that show's coming on deck, so it's awesome. That'll be November 21st. And then, and I want you to become aware of this too, because like more and more schools are providing esports opportunities. And, is it just kids like logging in from home playing a video game? Absolutely not. So that's exciting. And then the Legal Man is going to be on the show. Some of you might know him from Twitter, but Legal Man is going to be on the show. He's an attorney, obviously. Well, not obviously, but we've been in contact. He's going to talk about the citizen's arrest, right? What does it mean legally to do a citizen's arrest? How would you do that? How would you try to defend if you performed a citizen's arrest? And in my area, a neighboring community, somebody tried to do a citizen's arrest on, I think it was some youth who were trespassing, or they thought were vandalizing their property. I don't know all of it, but they held them and they were saying citizens arrest. So, like, what does that look like? Is it a state by state thing? And if you, how would you defend yourself by claiming you had the right to do a citizen's arrest? So he's going to come on and talk about that. So we're going to listen here and figure out, hey, citizen's arrest, which I think is a great show, right? I'm excited about that one, and I'm excited about all the shows. But and then Lisa Lenny, we're working out of time. It's really her schedule's just gotten crazy. But we are going to be talking about the law of necessity, which kind of is in that same vein, but not. So, law of necessity would be what if you trespassed on property, but the reason you trespassed was to find a lost child with autism, or a lost person with dementia, right? That you thought was on that property. So, how do you argue that breaking a lesser law was in the best interest? Or like if you're following someone who's driving erratically on a road, but you have to drive 5 miles over the speed limit to keep up with them, and you're telling the dispatcher, here's where the person is, here's what they're doing. And then when the police catch up, they not only pull that person over, but they pull you over. So that person gets tested for driving under the influence, and you get a ticket for driving 5 miles over the speed limit. So this whole law of necessity, which I speak about a lot in my class, and I think it's worth bringing in people who have the expertise to talk on that. So I've got three guests already lined up for November. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, I feel this is a time of year, by the way, when this is a great time of year for taking like pictures and having like professional pictures done if I'm going to use them, because one, I'm still I'm still tan from summer and I'm fit, and I haven't like hit that winter metabolism slowdown stuff. So, but actually I think right now, like as of like today, I think this is the probably the I would say the most fit, or at least the least I've weighed in let's see, I would say going back to maybe like 2015. So not that I really was like overweight. I mean, but to be, I would be surprised if I'm 200 right now. I think I'm actually under 200, and I'm 6 foot, and I'm broad shoulders, and 34 waist, 44 regular sport coat. But I noticed when I go to the university, right, and that's kind of spread out, like 1 week, then 1 week off, then 1 week on, and I'm like, oh, sport coat, my 44 regulars, just looks good, just a little more room, a little more give to it, and things like that. No, it's good. So, carving pumpkins all day, Ron Wayne, all pro Leamington, biking. Yeah, I could have biked. The last few days. I didn't. I got out and did about a 9-mile walk yesterday, which was good, because there are people I see when I walk. I walk past this elderly community. By the way, I ordered a new cover for the mic to take care of the plosives, the P's. But so there's like all these elderly condos near the airport. Well, where elderly residents live, and they were out, a group of them that I've kind of got to know through like all the walks I take in summer and stuff. I walk past that area, and they had all these lawn chairs out, and they were talking, and they were just hanging out. So as I walk by, I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey. So I just said, probably be the last time I'll see you guys, because I'm guessing you're not going to be hanging out here when it's 40 degrees in a week, right? But that was cool. I'm glad I did that, and I felt good. I felt great actually doing that. I stopped at this like moving sale. My God, like they were just giving everything away. So it was a house, and so I show up, and I was just walking past, and they had a lot of stuff and things I was interested in, but I didn't have any place to put or any need for. One was they had this blue barrel, like a 55-gallon like plastic barrel, and this thing was thick. I mean, it was easily like a quarter or third of an inch thick, and so the top had been sawed off. It would have been perfect to put like brooms in, and different things that had handles, right, that you wanted to. But I don't have a place in my garage that would work. I don't have a big enough garage to make that work. And then downstairs, it just didn't make any sense. I was like, well, I could put my kindling in there. Yeah, I could, but then like I've got to bend down to the bottom of this barrel to try to get this kindling out, which really isn't realistic. So I'm just like, it kind of sucks because it was really nice and it's free. I'm like, and there were so many times I thought if I ever have a house, especially, like a bigger garage, like I would have this in the corner and throw all of my, things in it and it would keep it organized. So suddenly I see this as I'm walking past and I'm like, holy smokes. And then I'm like, this thing is perfect. And they're like, if you want it, it's yours. I'm like, so I walked home. I really studied the garage. No, there was no way to make it work. And studied the basement. I'm like, I just don't need it. But they also had an Iowa stereo receiver with 5 speakers. And I think they were asking like $20 for that. And I probably could have got it for 10. And it worked fine. And I was like, that's not a bad thing to put out in a garage. But then I'm thinking, I don't want to really, again, like, I don't really have music on when I'm in the garage. I have a boombox out there that barely works. I should get rid of it. I got it in 1984. I still have the original owner's manual for it. I bought it at Sound World in Wausau, Wisconsin. But yeah, so I was like, well, like I kind of put it, I have a little work area, but then it takes up space, right? And I don't want to really mount it on the wall and get into mounting speakers. And I guess, I'm just not out there enough. It's not really like a primary work area. So I was like, yeah, even at that like kind of giveaway price, it just wasn't worth it. But there were a lot of cool things. There was just like nothing I needed though. You kind of, I don't know, for me, I kind of get that way. I'm like, I don't need these things. So, but anyway, I felt a little bad because it was just kind of cool stuff. And the stereo thing, I'm a little like, I don't know, maybe I could have made that work. But again, like for what, like 3 days a year? Because when I'm outside working on my cars, for example, in summer, I prefer not to have the radio on, because what is the radio today? The radio is, 30 minutes of music and 30 minutes of commercials. And I just I don't have tolerance for the commercials anymore. So I'm not going to go out there and try to hook up a CD player or tape deck, or it's old school. It doesn't have like a Wi-Fi with your phone and anything. And anyway, I'm not that big into listening to the radio when I'm doing stuff. When I was younger, I always loved it. And summer Milwaukee Brewers baseball games on the radio and detailing out a car. But now everything is just so, just so much garbage with commercials and things. So let's see here. Ron Wayne, carved pumpkins. It's a good day. We've got that coming up here. The seeds are good. Oh, I love pumpkin seeds. Yeah. After seeing what happened in Georgia, Salt Leamington, when you try a citizen's arrest, I highly recommend never doing one. Yeah. So I looked, like in my state, it's on the books, and it seems I found an article from an attorney who was pretty pro citizen's arrest in my state. But it wasn't like a recent article, a couple years old, but I think it's one of these interesting things that seems to be on the books in a lot of places. And so like, what does it really mean? Right. So I think this is a great question for the legal man. And he's like, yeah, I'll dig into it a little bit and we'll talk about it. So, cause I don't think I would ever do that. And it's the situations I've read for citizens arrest would be, somebody, stabs or violently goes after somebody, and then like you detain them. And the thought is, and then you do the citizen's arrest. And if they were to not be detained, like they would continue to do the harm and possibly kill or severely injure people or you, right? So you have this right to do this citizen's arrest. I don't know. That's one of the things. Like, I'm like, we all hear about the citizen's arrest stuff, just like when we're all kids. Like, if you get caught in the quicksand, like, just lay your body out very slow and try to. I mean, it's kind of like it exists, but what is it? What is it? And um, so I just think that's interesting. Or is there something like similar to citizen's arrest? Or we're also going to talk about Good Samaritan with the legal man. Because I've had people tell me that if I'm driving, they say, if I'm driving down the road, Dave, and see an accident, I'm not going to get involved. And it's not because I don't want to help. It's because what if I do something and then I get sued? So I'm like, oh, so, I think there should be some more transparency on like the Good Samaritan laws. I think we should be like, people should be taught that should be taught in high schools, and there should be some kind of even like public service announcement with that, because there would be times, right, when obviously you want people, or if something happens to your right and somebody tries to help you out. I'm biking, right, and something happens where I am in an accident and wiped out on the road. Maybe a deer runs across and knocks me down or something, knocks me unconscious. Like, somebody says, well, I can't, it's around a corner. If he stays in the middle of the road, somebody could hit him. So I'm going to move him to the side of the road. But in doing that, they cause more harm. So, are they protected under, Good Samaritan? I don't know. So I think that'll be a great show. Areas I have never done shows on before. This is Mile High Ronin. By the way, we have 1,244 subscribers. Thank you so much. And an update, we are within 188 hours of this show being able to be monetized. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. Like, it is going to happen now. I'm going to log in to my YouTube account probably in the next month, right? And we're going to crest that 4,000 watch hours. So I'm excited. And we've hit the regular content where Wednesday will be show 192. So we are, we're getting new shows out there, and we have a good catalog of shows for people to go back and to find, episodes interviewing Larry Lawton, America's biggest jewel thief, Juan Brown, the airline pilot out of California, and Blanco Lirio, Juan Brown, Bacon. So, I mean, a really good roster of shows. And we just continue to add to that. So makes me happy. And all you guys are awesome. So, compliance of the perps to make a citizen's arrest. Play Paul Blart, record, then report. Yeah, our mall cop right there. Paul Blart, our mall cop. I personally wouldn't take on the liability, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, I think so, Barnaby, right? And that'll be a question for Legal Man. If you guys follow Legal Man on Twitter, right, he's not going to mince words. And but would there, because I think, like, under what scenario would you consider doing this, and then how do you defend it before a district attorney or a judge, or I guess even the police, although it's probably not as much with the police. But I'm going to try to go through this with him of saying, like, what if you're doing a citizen's arrest and then the police arrive? Like, how would you convey to them that you did a citizen's arrest? Like, what should you say? And are police officers anticipating what you would say, right? Are there certain ways to say, I'm doing a 118.31 citizen's arrest in my state? And how do you declare to somebody you're doing a citizen's arrest? Does it have to be like a Miranda rights type thing, although it's a citizen's arrest? I don't know, but I think it's going to be fascinating. So I'm not like saying to go out and do citizen's arrest, Mile High and Ron Wayne's like, you're under citizen's arrest. He's arresting everybody out there. He's deputized. Mrs. Wayne is like, come on, Ron, you can't be this way in our neighborhood. Got to live with these people. Can't be just, you're parked too far from the curb. Citizen's arrest, confiscate your car. So I think it'll be interesting. I know it'll be, Legal Man is phenomenal. So I know it'll be interesting. So So I guess one of these things in my world of teaching my aspiring school leaders in the superintendent legal class is, what do you do? So the one time a citizen's arrest came up in class was saying, what if you have a student who is end of the school day, right? And they leave the door, they're walking out, and somebody grabs it and says, "You're coming with me. I'm like your Uncle Jimmy's told me to be here and pick you up or whatever." And the kid's like, "You're not I don't know who you are," and whatever. And they're trying to take this person and this kid, right? And what would you then try to, well, one, secure the student on property and say, until we know who you are and whatever, the student isn't going anywhere, which they said. But some of them went down the road of saying, like, they would then like secure this person, right? They would, if they had the staff, and who knows, like, somebody just grabs this, person and says, because was this a child abduction in the works? I don't know. So these are things like when they come up in class, I'm like, okay, always have a notebook, and that is only dedicated to questions for your lawyer. And this goes into that notebook. So the next time then you meet with your lawyer and you've accumulated some questions, ask this. I said, I can't give you advice on this, right? I'm not able to do that. But I said, yeah, I mean, it's a question. I don't see scenarios where this is likely to play out. I'm going to be 51 years old. I've never seen a citizen's arrest. I've never conducted a citizen's arrest, but it's one of those things. Have I heard about it? Sure. So play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Yeah. I think at today's age, it would be really a challenge to do that. But I'm also kind of wondering, though, are we going to learn something in the show that we didn't expect to learn, right? We're kind of expecting that legal men will say, yeah, probably don't do this, right? There's very slim chance this will work out in your favor. But what if he has a couple scenarios where he's like, you know what? Actually, depending on what state you're in, like these states, like here's some situations recently where citizens arrest did work. I'd be like, I don't know. Video killed the radio star by was it the Bugles? So guess what, Ron? Here's a fact. I was watching MTV at my friend's place, Lyle, and his sister. Oh, I forget what her name was. So this was back in the 80s when MTV started, and they had a satellite dish. They were out in the country. They had a farm, and his sister, again, I can't remember her name. She was in high school at the time. So Lyle and I were younger. She was big into MTV. And so when I'm over there, she's just like, hey, like MTV is going to be on for the first time ever on whatever time they were going to go live, right? So we're sitting there at their house, and I think we're doing things like filling up the sink with water, and then lighting fireworks and putting them in the sink under the water. There's demolition derbies with lawnmowers and riding lawnmowers, stuff like that. But God, I think I forget what her name was, but anyway. So we watched when MTV came on the air. I watched MTV the moment it became live at Kurzweil's on their satellite dish. And the first song they played was Video Killed the Radio Star by the Bugles. That was the first song. So I remember watching MTV the moment it went from static to being on the air. So kind of a crazy thing. And I wouldn't have done that. I mean, I had no big interest in it myself, but his sister, Nancy, she's like, you guys got to watch this, right? It's, so we did. And then we went and did other things like after that. But the first few years of MTV are really cool. Remember the show Beat the Bishop, where someone dressed as a bishop ran around the audience. You had to answer a question before they came back, the Beat the Bishop thing. So there were like, a solid few years there at the very start when it was pretty cool. But yeah, as a citizen, you don't have the legal coverage cops have. Yeah, certainly. So so when you guys are in here, like be asking questions of the legal man. So as I said, I have the suspicion we're going to hear some things which will be surprising in this. And at the very least, I want to know, like, if were ever in some situation where I thought I was going to cowboy this and pull it off, like what is my best chance of not having me end up being sued for every cent I have and this microphone being taken from me and these headphones and the soon to be new camera. And yeah, that they would take that and they would probably try to take the sign Coop is making for me, but I don't know. I did the little safety dock thing up in the corner, by the way. Was R.J. Jones. Well, it's just a cutout of my. He had a couple different logos he made for me, but so yeah. So it is haircut safety dock day. So the logic, this is Bolo in Canada, is establish a crime scene by calling the police, then prevent leaving the crime scene using equal force. There is no expectation of firearms here. Prevent leaving the crime scene using equal force. Yeah. So that's good, Bolo, because like that's something to bring up to legal men. Say, well, in Canada. And so like what is equal force? Right. I don't right. It probably isn't pulling out a gun and shooting somebody, right? But are you then if you grab somebody, can you tie a rope around them so they can't go anywhere? I don't know. Or like, can, 3 people hang on to them or, it's different from like taking somebody and tying them up and then like hitting them and stuff like that, because right, that would be crossing a line. But if you're detaining them, I don't know, again, but this will be an awesome show. I was so excited. And suddenly I feel I'm on this role like of guest. And that was the way the show was for a number of years, was to probably have 2 guests for every show that I did without a guest. And then it became largely me. And now it's kind of going back the other way to like the regular, safety docs want to get up on Safety PhD, like where I have guests, which is great because I think that brings so much into it. So, by the way, for those of you who didn't see the other night, I'll just bring it up again right here. But this mug and this is very heavy. This is a Polar Camel. I can't overstate the weight of this mug. It is insulated. It's just super heavy. So it's great. I love it. All metal. This was given to me by one of my students in my superintendent class. So these are the 4 points I would always put up on the board at the start of class: discretion, best interest, Board of Education policy, and induction. So every time you make a decision on something, right, use your professional discretion. Who believes they have professional discretion? Because they probably don't think they have it. So meaning like if there's smoke, someone pulling a fire alarm versus someone saying, I have to find the principal, right? They don't feel they have discretion. If they feel they have to find the principal. Best interest, it's always laminated to context and situation in the moment. That's a legal term. So are you acting in the best interest of the student, of the school? Board of Education policy, what does your policy say on something? And if your policy doesn't align with something like esports or trap shooting because there's 0 tolerance for guns, then you have to change your policy because you should have those sports. And induction, when you're not there, how does somebody learn the stuff that you worked on? How do teachers learn how to do things? How do new kids learn how things are done around here if they move to your district at the middle of the year? So those are 4 points that I came up with, right? There's a lot of stuff I'll use in class and be like, this is my stuff. Like no one else has this anywhere out there, at least that I'm aware of. And I'm like, you can use it. But, so that was really cool. Like that is an awesome thing for somebody to do because, they obviously appreciate the class, right? And they appreciate what I am, how I instruct a class, because otherwise you wouldn't be compelled to do something like that. And that student, all the students are terrific, but really high level of interaction. So it's a great class. It's really great. And I kind of changed, I changed my approach to teaching that class too, got more interactive, and we kind of went away from some of the case studies. Seemed to go really well. So video evidence is crucial for the citizen because everyone will be put in cuffs. That's a good point, Bolos, right? And I also think, so Joe Dolio says, wear a camera at all time. And what he says really is like, you can order a pen that has a built-in camera, and they have these on, I don't know, Amazon. Joe has them on his website, or he actually recommends which ones to buy. But he said there's many times, when he interacts with people where he will always have that. So he has the video evidence, and we know that the courts and the judge and DAs, they jump at that stuff even before anything else is out there in investigation. They will take that video clip and run with it. So I think it's important when so even things that I don't do a lot of where I have any type of video on, but I know there are a number of lawyers who would say, oh God, like anywhere you drive, you should always be recording. Like you should just have that built into your, buy that for your car. So, because if you get in an accident, that video will be so critical. In the accident I was in 2019, I didn't have video. Nobody had video, but actually video, because it happened in front of me and I was sucked into it. It would have been really helpful. So, but huge waste of time there. Way to go, Prof. This is Ron Wayne. Thanks, buddy. That was a cool thing. It's a good class. Very appreciative of their they brought the energy, right? Because as a new superintendent, so there's a lot asked of you. So when you come into class, and that's one thing I tell them right off the start. I said, there are assignments in class, right? I don't care about your formatting. You don't have to do that APA, Chicago style, however you want to format stuff. I said, concise bullet points, that's fine. But the reason I'm going to give you some assignments in these areas is I want you to know your organizations that you're contracting with, or not contracting, you're paying for your memberships in these different state organizations. What do they do and how often do you use them? Because you're probably underusing them and they're probably not doing what you need them to do. So let's be open about that. So I want you to inventory those, and we go through different assignments, but yeah, they really, and I say, I'm never going to make you do busy work, right? That's not what I'm about. And I go through and I grade every paper by hand, and I go through it, and then in class, one by one, I at one point I star on the paper to say Pete mentioned this in his paper. And so Pete, tell me how that came to be, this policy or whatever. And then you talk about it, then give paper back. But then everybody has a little bit of feedback publicly on their paper, and then they get it and they see all my handwritten notes, and I highlight different things and stuff like that. And so, right, if I'm doing a paper and someone is reading it and grading it and putting comments on it, it's meaningful to me then. I mean, there were a lot of times in my college years, you'd submit stuff and you might get it back the last day of class with a couple scribbles on it. But I mean, when you got something back and there was some feedback on it, right? That was always, you're like, oh, the prof read this, right? He or she went through it, and that's cool. So, but yeah, so I do that. Tie them to a tree and call the cops. What if they arrest the tree? So, don't forget the bees. Never forget the bee. So, Bacon, do you remember Tommy Boy? Bees in the car, bees everywhere. Save yourselves. I don't want to get stung. So, yeah, this good movie. It's Vanessa Kitty. Hello, Vanessa. Keep honey on hand. Let's see here. Old school MTV was great. Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's not a weird thing, but it's a fascinating thing to be able to tell the story of seeing the moment MTV came live. In the moment, it was so. I only did it because Lyle and I were there, and she's like, "You guys got to watch this." And then after, I thought the song was cool, but then we had other stuff to do. We had a demo derby of riding lawnmowers. So, and then we always pour oil in the mufflers. So then they'd all be white smoky as we're driving around, smashing them into each other. So, Doc, you just reminded me, I hung out with Billy Idol for the day for the New Year's show. Oh my God. Wow. In 2000. And yeah, Billy Idol. Wow. Awesome. Very awesome. Ultra Lemonton. It's playing with fire. Even self-defense is really risky these days. De-escalation avoidance is the best self-defense. Yeah, best self-defense is last. Yeah, true. Because how will somebody interpret it? That's the thing. Is you could do even everything quote unquote correctly, and if you get a DA who leanings to one side, right, they could just throw the book at you, right, or just dismiss the other person or whatever it is, right? So a judge, a jury, like you don't know how these people are going to interpret and apply the law. So yeah, it is tough. Um, so let's see. Barnaby Sanchez. Mama said MTV is the devil. It's Bobby Boucher. I only watch PBS. PBS, I remember PBS had a lot of awesome shows. PBS Online did several documentaries of small town Wisconsin, and they did an hour-long documentary. And then they started doing half hour, but my town was in that. And then where I live now, and maybe like 10 others. And it was really well done. It's really cool. That was state PBS, but PBS had a pretty good run. Benny Ballistics, yo, Benny Ballistics, Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Central, right here, Benny Ballistics. So Benny Ballistics, I shared the graphic from it's the hockey stick of school, high school, like trap and competitive shooting teams. So meaning 5 years ago, there were 3 states that had teams, and now there's 34. So it's this hockey stick, which is good. It means it's taking off in a good way. There's a lot of momentum because we know there's so many organizations like the JCs and Lions, like organizations are declining. Now this is different in sports, but even in sports, like participation in football and things like that is leveling off or declining. So as far as sports, like esports and trap shooting, boom, taking off. So I shared that with Mike Dahl of Wisconsin Esports and said, do you have anything similar to this to show the growth of esports? And he did. He had a few kind of similar graphs, but not quite the same. But I will bring those in. And that's, again, it's fascinating because when I speak to the superintendents, they're aware kind of the esports and the trap shooting. And some, they've gone there and the districts have those, but you just don't see where it's easy to look at that from my perspective and say, well, in 5 years, this will be everywhere. And if you don't have it, there'll be a lot of pressure to have it because you'll lose students because of open enrollment. I mean, if you're a competitive shooter and the school over offers competitive shooting and you don't have that, I mean, that happens right now for sports. Kids go to schools that have, better basketball teams, better football. But in this case, I mean, if it's totally not offered in your district, it's offered somewhere else. Well, equal force equals street fight. Bolo's like, everybody was kung fu fighting. So, yeah. I'm like, hiya. So it's kind of weird. Like this shirt actually feels a little big on me right now. So, anyway, Mama's wrong again. Louisiana frog cakes. What was that? Bobby Boucher. So, man, that movie is what, like 25 years old, I think. I think it came out in maybe 98, 24. So, yeah, the Bourbon Bowl. You don't really see those jerseys out there, for that team, but yeah, Bobby Boucher and Henry Winkler being the coach there. I mean, I have the movie. I like it. Ron, that short hit 3K. So Ron did a short, got 3,000. Awesome, buddy. I did a couple shorts in the last month that got 6K. I haven't done one now for like a week, so I've got to keep doing that. So I've been learning a little bit more about like how to keep building the channel and now somebody said you should go back into your shows and you should just cut your shows into shorts, right? Into 15-second shorts, something from your show. And I'm like, yeah, I could. And if you get really popular on YouTube, like, which I won't be, but there are people who go in and just they do that. And they're like, whatever, Dan from I Allegedly Shorts. And for Dan, he's not getting any of the money for it, but he's getting a lot of free publicity from these people doing it. So he loves it. Like, and he brought it up in his show, like, look at these people like doing this. And so, no, Colonel Sanders Ronwayne, you're wrong. Mama's right. So, why is an alligator? That's the Abdullah oblongata. It's because they have all them teeth and ornery because they don't have a toothbrush. So, man, yeah. It's a great show. It's a great show. Great movie. So, the real question is, how did your buffalo chicken dip turn out? BB, Bending Ballistics. That sounds great. Went for ice cream. Nice. Very nice. So, hot or cold? My birthday is coming up, and I need to decide what I'm going to do. In the morning, I have a meeting, so over the interwaves here. So that's what the morning is. Not just a work thing. So that's all good. But then I don't know if I'll do something else special that day, right? You get to be my age, the birthday stuff isn't quite as exciting as when you're younger. But I don't know if I'll bring anything else that I'll do in that day. I mean, the weather is probably not going to be super. I think our stretch of warm days, the last 3 have been in the 70s now, started to cool down, which did great for my lawn. And I went to Walmart. I did some shopping and they were all out of Epsom salt because I wanted to add a little Epsom salt to my new grass because Epsom salt is good for new grass. So I bought the bag of Epsom salt, the only thing I had left, and it was peppermint scented, which I don't care. It's put on the lawn. But then it also said it had a little bit of baking soda in it. So it was meant more to be like if you take a hot bath and you're soaking in this. But then I'm like, whoa, like baking soda is not good for grass. It's kind of like a desiccate. It can dry grass out. So I'm like, but I think it would be very small amount. I mean, as I was, as I spread that out, I don't think it's anything that will cause problems, but I'm like, if I would have known that, I would have not put it on. So I kind of have like the Epsom salt, which is duking it out with the baking powder. That's kind of a net zero, which is at least what I hope. It's not a net negative. I don't want to kill off all the new grass I planted by having that, but it's not, I just, hand shuffle it on. It's not really even a dusting because it's kind of like pelletized and stuff like that. And then I watered it in. So I think it'll be bad. I'm sure like there's a lot of other stuff like in winter when I occasionally have to salt my walkway, which I don't do often, but if we have like an ice storm and you got to make it so delivery people can get up, and the postal person, they put the mail in the box in the house. Like I shovel all that stuff or snow blow that out onto the lawn and doesn't kill off the lawn. So I would guess that stuff is much more intense, but yeah. So anyway, up for this. Who didn't hit the like button? Well, let's do this here. It's all right. Yeah. So thank you, Mile High Ronan. So let's do this again. This was today. It's Becca who cuts my hair. She has her own salon downstairs. She's younger than I am, which is a good thing because she'll probably keep cutting hair for quite a while yet. And then I don't have to look for anybody new because, just used to. Becca's like, okay, knows how to cut it. So I always get my hair cut short. It grows very fast. So this is what it looked like, probably the last time it was cut 4 or 5 weeks ago. And then it grows out really fast. And then I like getting it cut, especially a zero on the sides and on the back. And then, but it also looks like I just enlisted somewhere. So Salvation Army. Look at this guy. Just And so, but yeah, so that's what's going on. So yeah, oh my God, we have 7 thumbs up. Whoa, now there's 8. So thank you. So yeah, the thumbs up is appreciated. The watch hours, the sharing. Wednesday night, we have a great show on deck. Super excited for Benning Ballistics and all good stuff here. So good stuff, very good stuff, very good stuff. So here we go. Yeah. So dun, dun, dun. I like Finding Your Roots on PBS. I'm not familiar with that. So who's the dude that did the Gettysburg thing on PBS? Ken Burns or something? Yeah. So replacing alternator when sun rises. Pouring rain though. Oh my goodness. Wow. Vanessa. Doc got his haircut by the same gangster that cuts bull rushes. Oh yeah. It is very similar, right? So it's Eagle Run 23. So somebody encourage Eagle Run 23 to subscribe to the show. Please subscribe to this channel, Eagle Run 23. Give a thumbs up. Thank you. Please subscribe. We are growing. This is a good thing. So so the updates for the studio. The microphone is working great. I love this Shure microphone. It's been terrific. So the new microphone, the audio Technica headphones here working great. I ordered today the Logitech Brio business grade high def camera, and really I did that so I can go in and do the manipulation of the tones and everything. I'm doing like post processing on this right now. Because the camera is just kind of fading out, and it's been good. It's more of a basic Logitech webcam I've had for 10 years, but the new one will let me do like 3 different angles, and it's just really well reviewed. It's been out there a while. Full glass lens, so I'm excited to bring that down here for a little more precision. I think what it's going to do is the colors are going to, or the contrast will be so much better. And now that I'm running Windows 10 also. So anyway, then that's it. Those are all of the technology upgrades here for the studio. Turns out, I know several here in the comments. Interesting. Well, welcome and thank you. Oh my God, now it's too many choices. Drop a like. If you haven't subscribed to many choices, one, please do so, because Misty Mrs. Wayne will encourage it. Smith and Wesson for the win. And the NFA is unconstitutional as applied to individuals. So, yeah, I was a guest on Matt Hoover's show a few times, CRS Firearms. Once we talked about 3D printing and the CASE Act. And he was also a guest on my show. So, yes, Matthew Hoover. So, too many choices. Thank you for being here. It's Ron Wayne. And also, it's Misty Mrs. Wayne. So yeah, we have these upcoming guests. I wanted to already subbed. Well, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. I wanted to talk a little about some updates with Treasury Direct, which is the government website. So let's get over to it. Of what is Treasury Direct? You guys probably know. So Treasury Direct is the website where you can buy Treasury bills, Treasury notes, and Treasury bonds from the U.S. government. Now, this was kind of I didn't really do much. I had a Treasury Direct account, but Treasury rates are really low, like very inconsequential for the last 10 years. And suddenly, in the last 3-4 months, they become very much front and center. Now, they're not hitting where inflation is, but notes like a T-bill, which is 52 weeks or less. You're getting T-bills close to 5%. You don't have to pay state taxes. The 20-year, here are the most recent auctions. Let's go in the most recent auctions. So you got to look at the high rate. And oh man, these are, so the 26-week T-bill issued on, will be issued on the 27th. So that auction just happened. You're getting, is it 4.39%? I think you're getting the higher of the 2%, right? So you're getting the 4.55. So, and you're not paying any state taxes. So if you have some money sitting around like in a checking account or money market or something, and you can do without it for 26 weeks. These buy at a discount. So if you buy $100, you're actually like they're charging you, like $98 or whatever, and then you get your full $100 back at 26 weeks. But they offer these in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 17 weeks. So it's one of those things where a traditional money market or just having some money around in savings or something like that, you can shift these quickly in and out, and you can just do it where it takes it out of your savings account automatically, then brings it back. You don't have to, you just put the numbers in there and your bank routing number and stuff. I've done this. It works well. The system, isn't like super flashy, the Treasury Direct system, but it's pretty easy to follow. And then you can, be getting interest on money that otherwise just isn't doing anything for you, right? I guess that's how I would look at it, like some money that you might be, if you had it, we're just kind of holding on to it. And then again, you can do some short-term stuff here where you can put it in and get some interest on it and get it back out. And you never have to pay state tax on it. The other thing here that I find really fascinating, well, these are T-notes. T-notes are T-notes. Treasury notes go up to 10 years. So you can lock in now some rates over 4%, like a 5-year Treasury. So that's pretty good. If you're looking at something where you basically have zero risk, right? If the government defaults on this, the stock market's done. Anything else is pretty much gone, I guess, except you could say precious metals. But if you're, as far as like securities and stuff, it's pretty solid bet. Here's what's really fascinating now is the 20-year bond. So the latest 20-year bond up here at 4.39%. So if you have a bond, so let's say you had $100,000, hypothetically, just to try to make sense of this, and you put it in, you bought this bond, Treasury bond, you're not paying any commission, you're not paying any fees on it. You would get $4,395 every year. And they split that in two. So every 6 months, you'd get half of that. And then at the end of 20 years, you would get your money back. And there's ways to get your money out before that. Like you could liquidate the bond. It's a little complicated, but it's kind of like an annuity though, but you're not paying anybody and your money's always there. And you're not paying state taxes on this. So like in my state, this is basically like a 5% return right here. Well, let me put it so you can actually see what's happening. This is like equivalent to like a 5% return. Well, that didn't quite work like I thought it would, but so looking here at a 20-year Treasury that just auctioned off, basically 4.4%. So that's really incredible. These a year ago were maybe 2%, and before that were maybe 1%, 1.5. So no one is going to tie up their money unless you're a corporation or a foreign government or something. But suddenly, like for my age, for me personally, like I think I'll still be around in 20 years. 30-year bond I wouldn't commit to, plus it's lower, but 20-year bond, yeah, there's some interest. I have a high interest in that because for me, I could basically use it as an annuity, and to skip out on some of the tax, stuff that our state taxes here aren't friendly. But these rates are increasing. So I think this will be closer to 5%, this 4.395 on the 20-year, the next time it comes to auction. Every month they come to auction. So we're hitting this really wild stretch now. You can tell the last 20 year before that was 382. The 20 year back in August was 338. Then it was 342. So like it's been 3.2 back in May. So now we're from 3.2 up to a whole percent higher, 4.395. And I think we'll be close or over 5%. So this might not pertain to you, but maybe it's something, somebody who has a fixed income or somebody who has, retirement age and they're living on, whatever money, and they're trying to figure out like where they can put their money. This might be something that's worth looking into. And they do have like a 5-year Treasury note and a 3-year. So that's a 20-year bond is like kind of an extreme thing, but you can get a 3-year note, 4.3%. So again, in my state, that's probably closer to like 4.8, 4.9%, because counting, you don't have to pay state tax on that. That's not bad. Again, I think if you go in this in the mindset of saying, well, it's not keeping pace with inflation, I get that. But like, for example, a 401k, which is down 15 to 25% for people, versus if you have, funds here that for 3 years, this is your return, and you can kind of plan on that and get things pretty solid. I think this is really appealing. So, and again, it's a free interface, right? When you set up your Treasury Direct account, you don't have to pay anybody. It automatically goes back to your stuff. So, yeah. So let's go through here. Oh, well, thanks for being here, Mile High Ronan. Appreciate you. I am not giving Uncle Sam money for 10 years, maybe 26 weeks. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, you run. And the 26 weeks, right? If you can pull above 4% or even close to 5% on a 26-week note, versus if that money is just sitting in a checking account or a savings account, you might have, be able to generate a few $100 off of that otherwise you wouldn't have had. And what is a few $100? Well, maybe, a few $100 is what you're paying on a few of your bills, for a month, right? Maybe it's your utility bills for that month get paid just because you moved some money around. So, so Z is saying the bond market has already begun to crash. Yeah, no kidding. And like, if you have mutual funds that are bond centered, that's not a good thing. For a lot of people. So yeah, the fact that the bond market is in such rough shape, including inflation, is a real is really transparent in the Treasury stuff. I'm not smart. How would inflation, when you address my thought? Okay, gotcha. So right. The thing, if you look right now, though, like a bank certificate deposit, a credit union share certificate, some of those are approaching 4% for like a 3 to 5 year note, usually like about a 3-year note. So not bad, actually much better than it's been for like 10 years, but you are paying state tax on that. And, and if you buy Treasury and stuff like that through a lot of brokerages, of course, you're paying brokerage fees or some overhead maintenance fees or all these other fees that go in there. And then you don't necessarily own that. You own. So personally, if I'm going to own anything that's a security, a Treasury, I'm going to buy it through my Treasury Direct account, because then I own it, right? And it's portable. And if I were to ever move here, right, I know how to go in. I mean, some of the stuff I think you have to address a little bit. Like if you're putting money into a 401k or 403 or some retirement plan, and you're not likely to pull the money out, that's kind of the mindset you have to have if you're going into Treasuries. But you can also do short-term Treasuries, and I think do pretty well on a 26-week Treasury or a 17-week Treasury. I mean, you might be able to keep spinning this into a few $100s every 3 to 6 months that you wouldn't have had before. So it's worth looking at. And I also think, like, to be aware of it, because when Treasury Direct starts paying these rates, what else is going to go up? Mortgages, CD rates would have to compete with this. And so Z's saying financial advisors go through a 6-week course at 23 years of banking. Yeah, and it's bad. No. And I'm glad you brought that up, Heath, because I am with financial advisors, people personally, like people talk and, stuff like that. And they'll be friends, family, relatives, even myself to some extent. You get in these situations where you have somebody managing something, and then it doesn't take long. And you're like, well, you don't really know anything more than I do, right? And if you really did, you kind of look at this too, at least I do. And I'm like, if you've been the financial advisor manager for any number of years, like you should be so sharpened on this stuff that you basically have made enough money and you're out of it. Right. So, um, right. Like with your own money, you would know how to invest it. Like you would be so much more proficient at that. It's not like coaching football. I mean, where there has to be this tacit skill and youth involved in it for that result. But I look at this and I'm like, a lot of these managed brokerage accounts, they take 1% to 2% of your monthly balance, and then that's a management fee. Well, you got to be kidding me, right? Um, and it just doesn't, to me, make any sense. And also, and these mutual funds have a lot of fees in them. I mean, I'm pretty good at picking individual securities because I tend to go with dividend paying securities, so I can leverage down. It's not a perfect game by any means, but yeah, I'm not a big fan. And I think the older I get, right, the financial advisor stuff is pretty crazy. But Eagle Rensing, I'm a financial advisor, terrible golfer, great guy, made me lots of money over the last 20 years. Yeah. So, and the market itself has, done well over the last 20 years. Like it has that hockey stick. So, the question is, where are we going to be in the next 2 years? Is this a pinnacle, or is this just like a bump and then things will shoot up? I don't know. For me personally, I like to have as much of at my age, to be 51, I want to have as much of what money I'm living off of, like coming through out of retirement, as soon as calculated as I can, right? So I absolutely know those numbers. And so like I have a pension, which I'll start receiving in 4 years. And it's not like a big pension, but it's a pension. So I know what that number is. Like I want to know where the numbers are, because then I also kind of flex my consulting, my other stuff to hit certain thresholds overall. And I don't want to work beyond that, right? I'm not out there to generate additional income and taxable income and stuff like that, because, my house is paid for, my vehicles are paid for. And, we've, positioned ourselves to have some money set aside when the roof needs to be replaced and stuff like that. So, I don't want to tie up years going forward with what would be risky investments. And then also investments, if they go down and I start drawing from them, that becomes a problem, right? So, I mean, right now, if you retired in the last 2-3 years and you're taking your required minimum distributions, like you're in your 70s, right? That's a bad setup, because you're taking money when the market's down, you're taking money out. So your cost averaging is all messed up, right? Because you're not putting money in, you're taking money out when it's low, and it would take more to return. But so I like to have things as absolutely nailed down as I can. And I have a lot of my stuff that way is very nailed down. And I kind of want to just take the rest off the table and just nail that down too. And yeah, I know I'm absolutely leaving some chance for much bigger gains out there, but that's okay. I've never in the past looked at any investments I've done and say, you know what, if I would have taken more risk at the stage of my life, like there would have been more money. And I'm like, no, I am glad that I've largely taken a very conservative path. And also, like, I bought this house, we renovated, we fixed this house up. We lived here for 20 years. So, and we paid the house off like in 10 or 12 years. And the house is, appreciate. But so I'm not underwater on a house. I'm not looking for another house. I like my house. So those types of things are helping out. They have strict rules on investing for advisors. So yeah, I haven't had a good experience with any. I guess one of my advisors years ago was okay. I remember one of the things he told me, that was when I was day trading, which was like 1998, maybe. I don't know. He said, "You'll get sick of this. Like, it's a thrill. Everybody is excited. And then, like, you'll burn out." And actually, I did. Like, it was exciting for a while, but it was. And then you realize, like, if you're going to professionally do that, the amount of information you have to have coming into you, and the research and things, and then just weird stuff can happen that you have to be ready to counter, right? Like a pandemic, right? So, suddenly you have to shift your investments, or maybe not, I don't know. But otherwise, I mean, when I sit there with like a managed brokerage account, and the broker is like, "Well, here's like a model that we use or whatever." I'm like, "Well, but I could get that online, right?" And I understand stocks and dividends, and I'm not real big into mutual funds, because I don't think mutual funds decrease risk, is my belief. I think mutual funds, because they're so broad, they become heavier and they sink down, and there's a lot of management in those. Like, I'd rather have like a company. Like, I have MetLife. So there's a company, right? I'm not trying to get you to buy MetLife, but I know MetLife pays whatever dividend, I don't know, 4% or something like that. And I know that MetLife has a lot of, cash reserves coming in. I know what MetLife does for insurance things, and I know, businesses and pensions and things like that subscribe to that to provide life insurance and stuff like that. So I'm good with that. Like, I understand that. I think the business model, and I know it goes up and down, but I know I cost average, and actually I think it's up this year. For the year, I think it's up like 5%. But I don't need anybody to pick out of a hat, and the stuff typically that I am advised to purchase has been horrible, and actually stuff that I was advised to purchase that I held off on has gone down 50% this year alone. So I'm like, I'll just do it myself, or like, because again, take it off the table and kind of move it into fixed securities, take a lower rate. But again, I don't have to make a lot of money to pay. I mean, I have my property taxes, right? But it's not that I do things, right? So consultant, I do things, but I don't have a vehicle loan. We don't have a mortgage. And so, like, those type of things are off the table. So let's see. This is Heath. The reason why the silver price is being suppressed is because it competes with the dollar. There are massive shortages of silver right now. Yeah, the price, absolutely. Yeah, I've heard many times of the shortages in silver, and silver is also very big in for its use, right, in manufacturing. So yeah. So good point there, Eagle Run. So are precious metals outpacing inflation? I don't know. I don't study that. It's a good question though, but like, gold hasn't like rocketed or anything like that. And I don't think silver has either, but as Eagle Run points out, there's much manipulation into those markets. So, and I guess what other precious metals, I don't know. Yeah. So again, I every day I'd look at, again, you might say, "Oh, that's pretty vanilla, docs." I look at bank certificate rates across the country every day, like best cash cow. And then I'll be bringing up like just individual states, and I'll be like, so who's starting to pay 5% on their CDs? And then I look at credit unions and figure out, who's paying 5%. And then, of course, I watch Treasury Direct, the auctions, the new auctions announced and the new rates. And that's every week, they're coming out and start to trend that. And then I'm like, okay, and here's other things that I have, right? And if I were to change some of my things into more fixed, right? The upside personally for me is I'm taking risk off the table, and potential downside is it's gone at that point, other than a default, which then pretty much the whole banking system would go. Like if you did, right, if you FDIC insures up to 250,000. So like you have a bank, you don't put more than 250,000 in a bank, or a credit union, you put your money in different places. But so, do you, there's this whole thing. Part of it comes in with your age, I think, too, right? Like for me, I don't want to keep a lot of equity exposure on the table because I'm getting older. I mean, if I was 10 years younger or even more, yeah, then there's some things, but I definitely think, especially now, I'm like, it just doesn't. So, and there is this thing too of this whole, you don't want to. I'm not trying to like say for everybody, but I used to look at all of our planning for the future and be like, well, what's the future? Is it when we're 70 or 75? Like, I have people, that I worked with who have died of heart attacks who are my age or younger, or had cancer or something like that. And so I think one of the things I'm realizing too is like, I love biking and I'm pretty active, but I'm not as, it's not as easy to do that stuff as it was when I was younger. Like, working outside all day and stuff like that. Like I'll feel that the next day, where when I was younger, I wouldn't. So thankfully, like, knees and ankles and all that good. But I think there's this whole thing too, where we can get in this mode of planning for the future, not living the present, right? We can sacrifice the present. That's like the studio. This is a good example. So, for many years, like the studio was the studio, which was old carpet that was down here for 20 years, stinky, smelly cat peed on carpet. And then, just a couple of lights, just small lights that were put in. And anyway, it was, I think 2 years ago, I'm like, well, I spend a lot of time down here. And I just want not really to treat myself, but I want to have better surroundings, right? So I had new flooring put in, which has been absolutely great. And then got the rollerblade wheels on the chairs so you can move around. And I mean, that made a big difference. The new lighting put in. Coop is doing the graphics for the back, and I'll do some of that stuff. But then I had the 3 new monitors. That was in November of 2019. I ordered the 3 big, so I have 6 feet of monitors in front of me. Those came in, and then I had upgraded this summer the guts of my PC to Windows 10. But then, this fall I was like, well, I like doing this. I also do the university stuff. I want to go with a better mic. So boom, I want to go with a better headset or better headphones. I want to go with the headset. I want to upgrade, because if not now, when, right? These things probably should be upgraded, but, and for my bike, I mean, I don't want another bike, but at some point I'll have like an overhaul done of the bike again. But if you don't do those things, I don't know, there is this point, who was Z saying, I like this here. He's saying, always live your best life every day. I think that's a really good statement. I shared that out with my superintendents at the end of class. So the end of class on Saturday, that was their last class for the year. So with me. We wind things down, and they get to know, really a passionate instructor, right? Really we get into a lot of stuff. And I wound it up this year with a story. And in the other years, I kind of winded up with a legal case that I might have worked on. And how things can go really bad fast. And I didn't want to do that this year. So I ended it this year, and here's what I did. And I said, there's a quote from Stephen Covey in his book of, the highly successful habits of bending ballistic of people. And the quote says that uh, airplane pilot is off course 90% of the time. And actually I checked that. And that was true and is true if you're just using landmarks to kind of navigate and things like that. If you're using like commercial flight, it's all like ping, 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 and planes always calibrated to, but there is this thing called dead reckoning where that is accurate, right? And it's probably a truth too. Like if we were to take a vacation, if we were to go to Florida, it's not as important for me. I'm in Wisconsin. The first 500 miles aren't that important. As I get further and further along, then I have to like really figure out the roads, and eventually you got to get on the I-4 if you're getting to Orlando, stuff like that. But how I get from here to Kentucky, not probably a big thing. So what I talked about in class, and it resonated with people. I mean, it's like a pseudo quasi emotional kind of thing here at the end when, we're finally wrapping things up here. And I said, don't allow yourself to be subscribed where every moment of every day of everything you do has to be measured, has to have a baseline of this. I said, that's all important. We've talked about that during class. Like there's reasons and times when that's important, but when you're trying to move people toward down the road to a vision, right? Of you want to be the exemplar district that people come to for technology or whatever. That's your goal. What you want to do is to get people moving. So this whole thing of stasis, like this state of just being, you want to move them forward. But I said, the only thing you need to do is if you're heading west, they just have to be going west. They don't have to all be in this prescribed path and all of that. They just have to be moving west. And some people move faster than others and whatever, but like, and it's the people aren't moving west. Those are the people you got to like corral and got to be like, hey, we're going west here. None of this like northeast bullshit. So, but I said, that's the thing, right? You just have to keep people heading west. And when they get closer, when time is passing and you've got more of the supports in place, the funding, the training for what you're doing, it'll start to hone in and you can then get in and land the airplane, right? But I said, what happens in schools, these shared vision documents come up and stuff like that. And they get so micromanaging, and schools tend to micromanage themselves. They're also micromanaged by the Fed, which is crazy, Department of Ed. But they tend to micromanage themselves, and boards think that they have to do this. They have to come in and all of these benchmarks for here's the 41 things we're going to accomplish this year. And it's like, no, you know what? You got to be moving west. So that's where I came in. And at this end, I'm really up front and passionate. And I'm like, where's west? And we're kind of finding it in the room there. I'm like, and if people are moving, they're going to feel really good about the mission, right? About what they're doing, and you're leading, you're going west. Well, here's a shout out to Lunis. Lunis, please subscribe to the show. Jim, welcome. Please remind Lumis. It's our good friend, Homeless in America. Hey, buddy, good to see you. So yeah, appreciate that. So. Benny Ballistics, Doc, if you came through the right part of Kentucky, you'll pass right next to my house. So there is no wrong part of Kentucky, though, is there? So I'm saying if at some point, I need some warm weather friends, because the more and more I endure the November through March in Wisconsin, I think like if I could just visit somebody, right? Hang out where it's warm. We go out and we do some golfing at a really cheap rundown golf course where you're just out in the sun. And even though like inflation, that would be expensive, or just sit on a deck or something like that. And it's 75 or 80 degrees out. Like that's all I want. just let my body like reacclimate to that for like 5 to 7 days, and then I'll be gone. And I can sleep on a couch there. We're all good, and it's good conversation. Heck, I'll bring down a portable studio. We could do a show from your house. Um, but I would. That's the thing, and my body will just be like, "Oh my God, it's warm," and I can have a short sleeve shirt on, and we're back home. It would be literally minus 30 degrees with wind. Um, so, and at that point, it just sucks. It just absolutely sucks. Because I mean, there are people that do it, right? We live next to two lakes, and people put their ice shanties out and they ice fish, and I'm like, oh, I guess, but really things just change every time you go out. You just bundle up and things like that, and um, so. But yeah, I'm thinking like if I had that, it'd be kind of like, okay, I can get through whatever, and then at the end of January, right, I'm going to visit somebody or a group of people, like, and but it's not something where I have to put a lot of money into it, right? I'm not like staying at some Best Western and going to all these attractions and stuff like that. Just like hanging out with people, and we're just like eating at home, right? Eat out a couple times, but and maybe having some beers, just talking and just hanging out, and the weather is what's like bringing it all together. Like that's what I want. So, yeah. Anyway, you guys know, and my birthday's coming up, so it's a birthday present. Be like, hey, Doc, here you go. So, thanks for subbing, Lunas. It's a good friend, Lunas. So I like that. Hope all is well with you, almost in America. Lunas hails from the great land of Norway. Really? That is amazing. Wow. That is really cool. I didn't know, Lunas, that is awesome. Wow. So let me I want to show you guys a picture I took yesterday. I took two pictures yesterday. So here's, well, what in the world here? Okay, here's the first one. So this, so I'll take myself out and show this one. So just a second. And I want to hear about Norway just a second. All right. So that is the firebush. It's turned like bright red now. Looks really cool. Really awesome. So, and then this picture I took on my 9-mile walk. And this is one of the lakes. It's a small one. This isn't a large one. Not far from my house. So actually you'd walk up like here, like this is all protected land. And there's a whole bunch of geese down here. So, and then are those ducks? I think those are ducks. So I don't know. I think they're ducks. So this is really scenic. So as you walk, there's homes like on this side, and then like I'm over here, kind of where the arrow's pointing. Like you'd have to like go up, and so there's this. I think there's actually 3 lakes now that I think of it, and I mean 2 are pretty small. This isn't very big, but the one is pretty big. I think it is actually like 100 feet deep at some points that I walk past. So, but oh God, it was just so nice. Just so nice. Got a jet. If we are not live Wednesday on my channel, be sure. Yeah, please. Benny Ballistics, 8:30 Central Time. Thank you so much, Eagle Run. I appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. BS there is a wrong part in Louisville. Oh my goodness. Stay out of Louisville, says Benny Ballistics. All right. What did I drove through Nashville on our way down to Disney, and it was strange because it was the first time I drove through an area like on an interstate where it went from like 10 lanes down to like 4 in like a half mile. So it was just really weird, like boom, 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 boom. And then I went back out. And thankfully, like I was able to handle it fine, but it's just like it was a strange thing. Drove right past the Tennessee Titans football stadium. And so I have a friend who lives down there, he used to play for the Titans. But I think I would, if I were to do Orlando again, well, I'd fly is what I think I would do. But if I were to drive, I would just take back roads, like I would take like state highways. I'd get off the interstate. It's Mike Lunas Skull. Lunas, yeah, please come back. So it's a regular show. We usually do one show a week that goes out into a blog post, and that's been getting a lot of following. And we have a great guest Wednesday, Bending Ballistics, this Wednesday coming up. Move south, Doc. Yeah. In winter, I'd like to. In summer, biking and things here between April and really like the September are very good. It's and October is kind of iffy. We did hit the 370-degree days here and good weather at the start of October. So October's kind of one. But like to me, like November, December, January, February, March. So 5 out of 12 months are kind of throwaway months. I know that sounds horrible. Like you're living in a state and you're like, but it's true for me. Like those months are just kind of throwaway months, and it's it's snow covered. So like I love to do stuff out in my yard. Got the trees in the back and cutting things and in winter it's just none of that, right? It's just if it snows, you get the snowblower out, which is awesome. I love using that. It's a lot of fun. Throw your snow 50 feet out into the yard, but yeah. I am glad I don't live in the northern part of the state. The weather here is significantly different. In spring, where I live in southern Wisconsin, spring is easily 3 weeks ahead of northern Wisconsin. So my brother lives in northern Wisconsin, and he'll be like, we still have snow in the woods, right? Or there's, the river, not the rivers, but the ponds and stuff are still froze like in May. So like, it could be worse. I could be living 200 miles upstate, but so it's Mike. Guys, we are within 188 watch hours of hitting 4,000, which means the show would be eligible for monetization, which is pretty darn exciting here at the Safety Doc studio. Yeah, we are jazzed about it. So I have this new thing in my start menu, by the way. It is the Xbox Game Bar. And I never played Xbox. I don't own one. But somehow it is now in my start menu. I'm not going to press it because I have no idea what would happen. So my city is a dumpster fire too, says Homeless. My birthday is next month. Homeless, my birthday is November 7th. It is next month. It's actually a week from Monday, a week after Halloween. So coming up. Yeah. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do that day. Like the weather here probably won't be that great. It's probably in the 40s, I would guess. So, but somebody wanted to schedule a meeting that day in the morning. And I was like, sure. This is right. I mean, that's not, I'm going to take the whole day off and just like hang around and what would I do? But I will probably on that day, I'll probably go to the our festival foods in town, and they have a hot bar, and load up on some stuff from the hot bar, chicken tenders. But now I've seen they started to do, instead of chicken tenders, they're doing chicken nuggets, and I'm not really into that because I'm not 8 years old. And if you don't do chicken nuggets, then they kind of just leave you with potatoes, macaroni, and potato wedges. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like it was always really good chicken tenders, and then they would always mix in like some fajita type stuff, and so with inflation and whatever, like although it's pay by the pound, they've really kind of thinned that out. They had the strangest chicken and dumpling soup I've ever had in my life like a week ago, and I was like, God. And actually, I like the place a lot. I like the store. It's just really strange, but so hopefully, like the hot bar, which is still pretty reasonable, the self serve but I don't know. I don't have a lot of big plans. So my gift to myself was this microphone, the headset, the other stuff, and then the new camera. Um, so let's see here. Nice place to fish. This is Jim, Louisville. You're darn right. It's trout capital. Betting ballistics. Mike, they have the world's largest agriculture expo there too, but that city is pretty crummy. So yeah. Yikes. What major city isn't a dumpster fire? Yeah. See what happens on November 8th. We have a governor election here, and it could change. We could have a new governor. And personally, I think that could bring some positive changes to the state. So we currently have a Democratic governor. And so betting ballistics, if you went through Paducah, so I stayed overnight in Paducah once, went down to Orlando to Clarksville, then you passed right by my house. So how far are you from Paducah, betting ballistics? And by the way, I liked Paducah. Now granted, like we stopped there on the way back too. I didn't spend a lot of time there. One of the things like that was really important to somebody at a restaurant to tell me was that Paducah was a site of a Civil War battle, which actually I did look up, and apparently that's accurate. But wasn't there didn't the tornado damage a lot of the downtown of Paducah in the last year? And then, so a lot of the historical stuff kind of from the Civil War era got damaged or destroyed. But I did look it up. There was a Civil War smaller battle that took place in Paducah. I think you could actually visit the site, but I don't know if it would really, if I mean, betting ballistics, you're down here, you're like, I live 8 miles from that. Not really something to visit. I live 2 miles away from Fort Winnebago, which was built in 1824. I mean, I'm never telling people to come here to visit what's left of that. It's interesting, and you pair it up with the Indian Agency House built in 1832. There's a canal that was built in the 1840s. It's all there in my city, but it's one of those. I'm never telling people, yeah, come here and see that. I mean, because you could, if you're into history. I mean, it would make for an interesting 2 to 3 hours, but then it's kind of hard to couple other stuff with that. And being from here, I'm not really into it. Although, you guys know, I was a guide at Fort Winnebago when after I moved here. I was a volunteer guide for maybe 3-4 years. Never took a dime from them. So back in that day, I don't know what they're paying guides $8 an hour or something, but I did it for free because I wanted to learn about it and I had fun with it. And I felt I was giving back to the community. And then I also became the maintenance man. And I did a lot of work on the building. I rebuilt, the shutters, and this is a historical building too, so it's kind of interesting. You realize how that is really maintained on the sweat of volunteers, right? But my dad came down. We had this plan and to replace a split rail fence of 100 feet, and then also to rebuild the well. So the well was just cosmetic at that point. It just sat. It was a well, but it didn't go down. It wasn't where the original well was anyway, but it was. So he brought up logs, and they were split. God, I'd have to remember how this went exactly. They were for ginseng in northern Wisconsin, and somebody donated them to him, and he brought them down on a trailer. And then I kind of studied the fence and how to we could build this. We did manual post hole diggers. And this was a hell of a project. I think it took us quite a while to do this, a few days, but we And we cleaned up the entire property, like trimmed every tree, edged everything. I mean, stuff that hadn't been done in like in 50 years. And I never charged anything. It was just a gift to the community and a gift to to the the fort. Um, so we rebuilt this fence, and I used lag bolts. Like I kind of figured out, I'm like, well, I can't. I mean, I did a lot of it with axes and saws and to make it look authentic. Like from the road, you couldn't tell. Actually, from up close, you wouldn't see a bolt head or anything like that either. The way that I designed it and had it put together, um, but it was a hell of a thing. Um, and when we got done with it, it looked awesome. And now I don't know how it looks today because I mean that was 15 years ago, but it looked absolutely phenomenal. And then the well, which I still have pictures of when we finished up the well, um, that was really cool. So, yeah. And I mean, I don't have any experience really in any of that. It's pretty handy, but yeah, we worked on that and figured out how to do that split rail and get 100 feet of split rail fence, and then to take this well and rebuild this well. So it's really cool. It's really cool. I also think as we go into a little bit of hey, it's Jim. My brain isn't being cooperative tonight. I live 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. You know who the Pittsburgh Batman is, Mike? It's Charles Mack from University of Pittsburgh Med IT, the Pittsburgh Batman. Pittsburgh is okay. A lot of the suburbs around Pittsburgh are FUBAR for sure. Doc, was there any damage by you from the tornadoes last night? One was supposedly on the ground in Madison. I didn't even hear about that. We didn't have any storms last night where I live. So I don't even, we probably had a little rain, eighth of an inch, but we didn't have any storms. Didn't have any. We did have some thunder come through, but we didn't have any wind storms, no watches, no warnings. So, but there can be a big shift, like from where Madison is to me, that's like 40 miles. So, and there's hills and stuff and bluffs from Baraboo that kind of shift like how weather, comes through here. So, yeah, I didn't hear anything really today though. And as far as like tonight, like I think I haven't for weather radar. I think it was just supposed to be rain. Nothing really eventful coming through here. So let me check my good friend the radar. There's no warnings or watches. Yeah, it's raining outside right now, and that probably rained for a couple hours, which is good for my grass. And then tomorrow I'll be in the 50s, so we're done with the 70s. Bacon to Mike, having grown up and now reside in a major metro area and also live in towns with less than 1,000 people, definitely trade-offs to both. Yeah. So I live in a town that's 10,000 people, and it always, not always, but it seems to perpetually be 10,000. Since we lived here, it's like always the same. Because there's the Wisconsin River on one side, and so there's only so much growth that can happen. And part of the growth would have to be like if they'd relocate the airport, then that area would be developed. And there was supposed to be a large subdivision coming in at the edge of town that would be annexed in. And when I was running for city council in March, like that was, or February, that was a big thing. But then that fizzled right with the economy, and the city would have to commit to putting the infrastructure out there. And so I don't think it's going to happen. And if so, it's going to happen like later on. But with that said, like, and I mentioned this to one of my neighbors yesterday. He was walking by and we were talking and just said, like, we have a modern hospital. Hospital's less than 10 years old and it's on our side of town. And there's a Walmart and an Arby's, right? And so we have things. We have a nice, beautiful theater in town, movie theater. But we don't have a lot of the big city things. We can go there if we want to. And like people walk their dogs or kids are biking around, stuff like that. There is a safer sense here. Now, granted, drugs and things like that were on the interstate. Yes, all of that. But so at least for the moment, going to be 70s again tomorrow. Went for a drive, Saturday and to a car cruise Sunday afternoon. Oh my, that sounds great. Sounds absolutely great. Donovan Warland managed it, but it took him years of video to manage it. Holy smokes. Everyone here should cast Ron's playlist on your TVs when you gotta sleep. Help him get his hours too. Absolutely. And I think Ron, I had mentioned before, but I want to mention again, I would like to have you on the show. So maybe that's something we can think about for, like December and what that topic would be, to kind of feature you and your work. So maybe think about that, buddy. And here's my email. Here we go. So yeah, I will. That's my email right there. So, and say, hey, like here's an idea, like for a show. So, wow, guest stock is too important for chicken nuggets. I don't mind them, but I'm a grown-ass. I actually don't mind them. The thing is, like a chicken strip, is typically a higher quality meat than what might go in a chicken nugget. So that's, yeah. So I'm kind of like seeing, is this a temporary thing that's going on there? But I arrive at like 11 a.m. and it seems pretty cleaned out at that time. And it's supposed to be like a 10:30 to like 2 o'clock hot bar. And I think I got there one day at like 1 and they were like, well, we're not putting anything else out. I'm like, well, so again, I really like festival foods, and this is kind of atypical for their, it's just in that situation there. It's just kind of rough. But yeah, let's see here. Chicken strips, right, over chicken nuggets all day. So, and the thing is, because they do it by weight, you're much better off to load up on chicken strips and like be thin on the potatoes and stuff, because like you don't want a big glob of potatoes, which weighs the same as like 2 chicken strips, because everything's done by weight. So you kind of learn the system there. That tornado you're talking about destroyed my area. I had friends trapped in their houses. The one that came through Paducah last December, right? We went out and ripped houses apart to get people. Put my truck in chains. Holy smokes, man. Wow. So let me ask you this, Bending Ballistics. You could just kind of post out. But what I heard of that, as far as like a FEMA response from, I have a friend who lives close to the Paducah area, was pretty underwhelming, right? Again, this was right around close to Christmas, but the FEMA response per that person who was sending some detailed on the grounds information was that it was pretty underwhelming. Had wished for a more substantial response, I guess, support coming in from FEMA. I don't know if that was your interpretation. One of their observations was at night, things are very insecure. Areas which have been compromised as far as like looting and things like that. So I have this position where I believe there should be, let me go back to my picture here. I believe there should be the FEMA should be restructured. There should be regional 4 or 5 in the US hubs where you have these rapid deployment teams of maybe 75 people or something like that. They're kind of perpetually ready to go. And they bring along specialized equipment, industrial 3D printers, and all of these things. And they stay somewhere for like a maximum of, 20 days or something like that. And then they're gone. But they come in and do this massive stabilization. The stabilization software, the patch. Who did it? Bruce Wayne. But I think that should exist. I mean, and I don't know, but we don't have that. So Mike is saying my uncle and aunt lived halfway between Paducah and Murray, Kentucky, on the lake. They moved back to Northwest Indiana earlier this year, sold the house and the farm where they used to hunt. Huh. Too many choices to Bacon. Bacon was going to make that reference, but was avoiding starting a caliber war. Thanks for knowing well enough to get the innuendo. So, hey, Doc, are you on Instagram? I almost put my mic in timeout. I'm sorry about that, Mike. I am on Instagram. I think Bacon has the link, but if you just look on Instagram here, I am followed now, and I'm by Ron Wayne. So it's my name, because I've done so much content, obviously, with just my name. You know, I don't operate out of these aliases. So, but yeah, so Bacon to Mike, closest shopping we had was in Mammoth Lakes, 20 miles away from June Lake by road. You were SOL if enough snow fell that Caltrans closed the 395, just the local general store. How about the 405 out of Los Angeles? So yeah, wow, Bacon, wow. And while we're on the topic of books, which we're not, but School of Errors, Rethinking School Safety in America, the most honest book ever written about the $3 billion school safety industry. Now you're thinking, well, school safety might not be your thing. Well, actually, probably about 70% of this book is just about different chaos situations, and especially a few chapters on the 9/11 harbor rescue in Lower Manhattan. 500,000 people rescued by boat in 9 hours, only because Admiral Loy said, if you have a boat and can get down here, help out. And no one was sued. Nobody died, right? How does that happen? How do those systems develop? So awesome book. This is very popular around the world. You know, it's in libraries and universities in Germany and England and France and Canada, right? So it's in Squamish, British Columbia. So you can pick this up, I think, for $22 on Amazon. I narrated the audiobook of School of Errors. And by the way, I got my first royalty from that. So not ready to retire yet, but yeah. So it's pretty cool. I distribute through Spotify. And which is really good. So I'm on Spotify, and so Spotify is my audiobook distributor. So what in the hell is going on here? It's like a haunted house. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you the ghost story. Don't let me forget to tell you the ghost story about Fort Winnebago, my experience. So somebody not write that down. So in 2 minutes, you come back and say, hey, Doc, weren't you going to talk about the ghost story? So here's downpour.com. Now there's many places. The book sells in 45 different places. So here it is though on downpour.com. It's $10.99. And then it's just the book downloads. And I think you get the companion document, 5.99 hours. So, but yeah, and it's on Amazon, right? Audible. The thing with Audible is it's more than $10.99. What Audible does is they set their own pricing. So if you're not high enough, they'll increase it. I still get the same percentage, but to be honest, if you're just buying it as a standalone, you're better to go to Downpour, where this is the actual price that I set, $10.99. This is all studio engineered. It was all recorded in a studio, professional sound. I recorded in a studio. It was professionally engineered, professionally edited. So it's good. You'll enjoy it. So yeah, $10.99. It's yours forever. You got 6 hours of doc. You got the energy of Doc, and just this great storytelling in there too. Interviewing Katie Pashon of Cajun Navy Relief, and good stories. The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. This is my book that came out in April. And this one, is in Japan, in China, believe it or not, in Qatar, in the United Arab Emirates, and also in California, many places. This one is also in Squamish, British Columbia. So this book, yes, please consider this one. There it is in paperback. The audiobook comes out April 12th. It's already uploaded. Spotify's got it, but it cannot release by contract until 1 year after the print publication. I wrote both my books under publishing contract. They're very physical, high quality, because they come out of a publishing house, right? These books are in the Library of Congress, 471 endnotes, but they're all like at the end of a chapter, and there's a lot of images in these books and things, pictures I took and other stuff, but it's a great read. So yeah, Velocity, and leave a review, man. If you haven't left a review, I know a lot of you have the books, right? Or a lot of people have the books, I should say. And I know that it takes time to write a review. And personally, for myself, I'm like, oh God, I'm not big into writing reviews for pretty much anything, unless something like really is amazing. And like, I'll leave it, like I'm compelled to, even if it's really great, I'm just like, I'm not a review person. But if you write a 3 to 5 sentence review, post it with it to Amazon, you have the book, you've gone through it. It means a lot to me. It means there's so much of marketing that gets programmed into the book reviews when people consider this for Christmas, getting these books, especially School of Airs. Hey, my relative is a teacher. My relative has kids in the school system, right? So like, get them this book here. So it really is, if there are recent reviews up, and so there are 23 reviews for Philosophy of Information, 54 for School of Airs. Consider reviews, and consider the audiobook of School of Airs. Right here. And that's Downpour, $10.99. So you won't regret it. So let's see here. Bacon. Benny Ballistics, good call on the playlist. Going to do that tonight for Doc. Well, thank you. Mike, don't tell him I said that. Guys, Doc, if I accidentally curse on your show Wednesday, I'm going to go ahead and apologize. Okay. Yeah, the show's not squeaky clean. It's but we holy smokes. I mean, honestly, have you just listened to politicians just curse an F word and this and that? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, there's some dignity and decorum that goes with the position, at least in public. But spirited, sure, we're all good. Benny Ballistics. Jim, well, Tennessee is not a huge state. He may be outside of Lexington, Kentucky, and still inside Tennessee. We'll talk about coming on your show, Prof. Well, send me an email around. I'd love it. That'd be great. Keep saying I want to go to Thunder Valley for the NASCAR race in Bristol, Tennessee. Yeah, wow. I was also impressed with the personal bravery. Fire and rescue got to raise funds all the time just for new trucks and equipment. Yeah, I was sharing that. So, Jim, there is a Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, maybe has about 20,000 people. They had a referendum in spring because they said, we're not getting enough money from the state for our fire, EMS, and police. So we want to do a referendum locally to add firefighters, police, EMS. And it passed like 52 to 48%. But that was kind of a new precedent in the state. Cities usually don't have those type of referendums and like recurring referendums of doing that. And I was talking with my school soups, and I said, the thing is, like, that creates more competition for you as a superintendent if you're having a building referendum when the mill rate, the tax rate is already increased because the city residents are picking up more of the cost. They're getting less state aid. It's weird. We have like a $6 billion surplus in our state, and that's not coming back for property tax relief. It's not coming back to our fire departments, for example. But when your cities do this, it makes it harder for you to pass things because people already have high taxes, right? So I was just like, kind of watch what's going on. Misty, Mrs. Wayne says FEMA doesn't do anything. The people that lost their homes in the floods back in August got denied, and not sure if they even helped anybody in the end without lawyers. That's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that, Misty, Mrs. Wayne. When I had Katie Pichon on the show 2 times from Cajun Navy Relief, Katie might have actually been on the show 3 times. She was very adamant about the struggles with interfacing with FEMA for Cajun Navy Relief. And she said, one thing with Cajun Navy Relief, she showed pictures, and she said, we had members, including her, including Katie, who are coming back to these areas a month or 2 later and helping people rip out moldy drywall and help them, rebuild their homes when FEMA was gone at that point. Like FEMA just dropped off a trailer, something like that, and said, here. So I'm like, I don't know. I think, your story here is what I've been hearing a lot, Misty, Mrs. Wayne. Benning Ballistics, the superintendent of the schools, did more for this area than any church did. That's awesome, Benning Ballistics. Glad to hear that. There's a lot of really terrific soups out there. I'm really, the students, the aspiring, the brand new soups in my class has a great group of people. That class wrapped up, and I'm like, these are great people. Really fortunate I had the ability to have them, and hopefully to teach them, show them some things that they didn't know previously, learn from them. Andrew saying, Doc, text me when you do an unscheduled show. I didn't know about this. Holy smokes, man. You're putting this on the doc to text you. So, all right, Andrew. So I appreciate that you're here. And what I'll usually try to do on Mondays is to do a show. And what this show with Benning Ballistics Wednesday is fits in his schedule. And then I, with some other guests, right, I'm flexible, so it fits in their schedule. But Andrew, definitely. I was going to send you a little video I took today of the med flight flying over my house. Man, that was pretty low. They could have thrown down some bandages in an ice pack, and probably I could have caught it from where I was sitting. It's like, holy smokes, man. So I always kind of wonder, like, wouldn't it be something if like the med flight had like the red flashing like strobe lights like they have on fire trucks and ambulances, like really light up the sky, like make that thing just crazy lit. So why not? Or do like some big LED ring around it that flashes or something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I'm like, I kind of want to see that in a med flight copter. So following you on IG. So yeah, I will hit you with a follow back. Thanks for posting my Instagram, Bacon. Ron is also on IG. Yeah. So look at this here, downpour.com for my audiobook. I think it's a great listen. So yeah, $10.99. You got 6 hours of content. You can listen to it over and over again. And I bring the passion of that book, as the book punching against the safety industry. And there's just, there's a host of amazing stories in there, and how these districts make these crazy decisions, right? Because they said, well, we'll do consensus. We'll just let people come in, and what do you want? And basically that's what they get. But could you ever imagine doing that for like a fire engine? Like your community comes in and says, well, we want this. We want a fire engine to do this and this, and be like, well, there's, professionals, right? Fire engine has to be able to pump so much water for your fire rating and whatever. But like, it has to be very utilitarian. You can do some kind of fancy style things as you're putting it together, a little bit of that, right? But But these people would, when you open this up, it becomes a dangerous thing when you have the people who aren't experts try to give opinion. So, hey, I have to take off and close up shop. Good night, everyone. Catch you later. Well, thank you, Mike, for being here. So when you say close up shop, so what shop, what are you running there? Is it like a CNC thing? So yeah, we should all host a party in Bristol near Andrew. Welcome, California. Oh my God. Oh, Bacon. I love that idea. Now that is something. Yeah. That is really cool. We have to get like a magnetic, it's kind of those bumper sticker type things, but put it on the back of the car with something California themed. Wow. Oh my God, that is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. I love that. So let's see here. The velocity of information is more valuable than Coach Klein's playbook from the water. You'd think so. Wow. That is, Coach Klein's playbook, right? That could be going to Matt LaFleur here with the Green Bay Packers, who are 3-4, and also the safety doc, who is now 2-4 in my pay fantasy football league, where last year I finished first, won the league, and now it was 2-0 to start the year, and I'm 2-4. And realistically, I have to finish 7-7 to have a chance at the playoffs. So it's kind of going to hell fast. But yeah, Coach Klein was the one that discovered that Bobby Boucher was homeschooled, never took the high school equivalency test. So no, it wasn't Coach Klein. Coach Klein was the good guy, right? Yeah, it's Henry Winkler. Was the other coach, the guy from Smokey and the Bandit, Jerry Reed. So, but yeah, Coach Klein got his mojo back. Was able to start whipping up and crafting the plays. And they use a water boy on offense. That was some good play calling. So, yeah, velocity of information is pretty amazing. Yeah, it's cool, like, to teach and then to say, like, here's 2 books I wrote. And by the way, like, they're in the Library of Congress, and then kind of just walk away from that statement. I always bring my books in class and put them on the table that I work from. So they're in front, but I don't necessarily reference them, but I think it sets the tone. It's the same as if, I come to class and I wear a sport coat, right, and a dress shirt. I don't come to class with a polo shirt and jeans. I think there's some tone setting. There's some of that primacy that needs to be established if you're in that role. And I think there's also respect for being in the role. So, yeah, let's see here. Benny Ballistics, Jim, I've been on pro circuits for 10 years. All right. And that is electrical, by the way. Benny Ballistics can wire 220 or 221 about 43 seconds. So, but you don't want to do 222. It's really hard for any gauge to handle. Heats up too much. Benny Ballistics. By the way, which movie am I referring to? 220, 221? Yeah, whatever it takes. Which movie? Benny Ballistics, that rocks. And I waited for Doc to answer that. He does his own well-placed adult language when he's on a subject he's passionate about. He'll do, oh yeah, Benny Ballistics, don't worry about it. We're good. We're good. So, yeah. I've had some shows where usually it's policy stuff that comes out, and I'm just like, so my mind is already going to some of those things. No, but we're all good, buddy. Seriously, I want this to be a great experience for you, and it will be. Don't worry about it. So I'll be really good. So, yeah. Bacon, let's plan out an event at my facility. So this is Z. My neighbor bought one of those FEMA trailers from auction for cheap. They are great for camping. All right. Misty, Mrs. Wayne, there's people that still are living in those small trailers they brought in. They don't have heat. And we have 20-degree nights already. That's awful. Oh my God. This is something where, you know, you wake up in the morning, it's like, oh, there's another 97 million or 1.74 billion that's going to Ukraine or whatever. And I'm like, really? Really? Like, you know, and a domestic investment in people in supply chain. And I mean, and I know I'm not alone with that, right? I know there's other people, and I know a lot of you, probably think the same thing. It's like, come on. I it's just mind-boggling to me. So Andrew's saying that helicopter is probably working overtime with the heart attacks and strokes. Andrew, man, that thing is like flying nonstop. And then I was down at the track, football field track. So between my house and the hospital is, so from my house to the football field track is like 2 blocks, and from the track to the hospital is 2 blocks. I was down at the track a couple of weeks ago walking at night, and then a couple of ambulances tore through town, like just flying, and then they show up at the helipad, so I can see that from where I'm at and on the track. And then one helicopter lands, and then it's down for like 10 minutes, and then it takes off, and another helicopter flies in immediately afterwards. I'm like, holy smokes. But yeah, the helipad is really busy. Like in summer when I sit outside, because anytime they're flying south, they fly right over my house. And again, like I like that. Like I grew up a half a block away from the train line that went through our town. So every time I went through, the house shook, and I just I got used to that. I liked that. In college, I lived next to the train line, lived a block away from the fire department. So like they were running like all the time. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool. And like the airport isn't real close to us, but like as people come in and out of the airport, they're like flying over the house. So to me, it's a feature, not a bug. I like it. But yeah, it does seem like they go out a lot. Like I was, when they initially put in the helipad a couple of years ago, like 3-4 years ago, and they put this big shed where they wheel the thing in and wheel it out, the helicopter. I was like, well, that's not going to get a lot of use. But apparently I was wrong. So our seasons are summer, evil hot in the 9 months of 70s to 90s. Man, I don't know, Heath. I love hot weather. So there hasn't been a day in Wisconsin that's been too hot for me. So it could be like 95 with like 80% humidity, which would probably be like our top end. And I'll be like, I'm going to bike that day. So I need to get a get on IG. Oh, I need to get on IG, says Solitude Surfer. Yeah. Sounds good, buddy. Ghost story. Oh, okay. Here's Bolo. Thanks, buddy. So being a volunteer guide and being the maintenance man at Fort Winnebago. So let me bring up so you guys get a context of this. Because you're like, Fort Winnebago, what? All right, let's do this. How the hell hard can it be to find a photo? The thing's been around for 200 years. I took half the photos that are out there of this place. Okay, this is, well, let me start with this one. Jesus, this is nuts. Insane. All right, here we go. So this on the left is surgeons' quarters. So this is where the surgeons, I don't know when this photo was taken. I'm just pulling this off of, I think this photo is old, to be honest. But anyway, so this building was built in, they believe, 1824, although it could have been built previous to that. It has a small basement under here, a cellar. And if you keep walking straight out the door, about 200 yards, you'd hit the Fox River. And before the Fox was dammed, the Fox River would connect to the Wisconsin River, and the Fox River could connect you up to the St. Lawrence Seaway. So basically, you could get from the Atlantic to the Gulf of Mexico by coming right through here. So in front of here, for 10,000 years ago, there was a well-documented path that the Native Americans took, the Wyona Trail. So there's monuments to that, and that had been used up until like 1,000 years ago. So about 200 yards from this, you could get from basically kind of the Atlantic down to the Gulf of Mexico by using this waterway, this path. So here's this building. Now you see this ridge right here. Yeah, let me magnify it out. Okay. So here's the building, and then I would give tours of this building. So here's the well over here, although this is an older photo because we rebuilt the well more like out here, because I think we wanted it away from here. So the surgeons lived here. There were 2 surgeons for the fort in 1824. And then next to this, so right in front, you see this dip right here. There was a military road that went through here around the time 1824. This was a military fort. This building existed before that. So it could have been built in like 1822 or whatever. But 1824, there was a military fort. This is the only building left. I'll show you what the fort looked like in just a second. They brought in a schoolhouse from the 1860s and set it next to it because it was going to be torn down. The school didn't have anything to do. But where the school was a hospital. So here was a surgeon's quarters, and there was a hospital here in the 1820s. Military hospital. And there's a cemetery back there. But so the ghost story, I was walking up. So I was doing a lot of work, and I took down this fence actually right here, and I rebuilt it. And then I always felt like this was really eerie because there were a lot of deaths by disease in the original hospital. And the hospital was torn down in, I think, 1848. So there was never a battle, although there was the battle of, I don't know, the Black Hawk War, which some troops from here were kind of involved in, which was maybe like 25 miles from here. But like there wasn't ever a battle right here. Now there were effigy mounds like all around here, like in back of this, in about a mile or two, there's effigy mounds which date back 1,000 years. So let's go back to this garrison school. There was a hospital here in like the 1820s. There were a lot of Native Americans that died of diseases, a lot of soldiers that died of diseases. So you can imagine it'd be pretty horrific, right? The level of medical care. And I was taking photos for postcards. So a couple things happened. One was, as I was working, I always felt a little strange, like just kind of doing the solo work out on the facility. So when I say strange things, like, you'd think like doors would open or close, or you think you'd hear things. I didn't really pay too much attention to it at the time, but I had my vehicle. I parked down here in the parking lot, and I came up, and I was going to do some maintenance on the building, right? And when I got up to about here, my car alarm, and I'm the only one there, and I can clearly see my vehicle. There's nobody else there, right? My lights start flashing, which never happened before in the car, and honking, horns, and all this stuff, and alarm. I go down to the car, it shuts off. I'm like, oh, I don't know. I go back, I get about to the same spot. It does it for like 3-4 times. And then I think I just said, well, what's the deal? Like, I'm the only person out here. Like, what is going on? And And then it didn't happen again, but it was like clockwork. And I'm like, I'm helping restore this building. Like, I'm one of the good guys, right? So you got no beef with me. And I'm, I'm not I'm not the tool guy. I'm not the handyman like you see I'm not Bob Vila, but I'm pretty good. And like what I'm doing here, right, is all free, and I'm improving this area. So, but when I removed this fence, it was really weird. That's kind of when all of this weird stuff was happening. And because I have postal diggers, so I took this fence out and then I dug it and put a new one in because this was all deteriorated and stuff like that. And it was just really strange. Um, but I took a lot of photos inside of the building for postcards. And I had one day I took photos, and I have to go back to like where I have those, and they were nonstop orbs. And I'm like, well, what the hell? But I mean, just like everywhere. And then upstairs in the attic, I mean, this building's like 200 years old, right? I mean, it's one of the oldest buildings in our state. And I had just one day where everything was just weird with all the photos. I took a photo, probably standing from about here, right? And I took a photo toward the front of the building. There wasn't a screen door on it. It's kind of weird. Like, you have this 200-year-old building and you got a screen door on it that you bought at Menards last week. But I took a picture, and it looked really good. Like the sun, everything, was lit up well. And so I printed some of these off, and I'm like, here's some options for postcards. And somebody said, well, we can't use this one because there's somebody in the picture. I'm like, what? I'm like, there was nobody around when I was taking these pictures. So I look, and there was a lady standing in the door, and she was wearing like 1820s type dress, right? And very precisely defined. And I shared it with a paranormal investigator. And actually, then I like the site, they were like, don't say stuff about this. Like, well, I haven't been there for quite a while, and I don't have the evidence. I do if I looked it up where the files were. But I was like, whoa. So yeah, it was really strange how precise that was. Cause yeah, I did. And the paranormal guy who's been on TV and stuff like that I shared this. It wasn't Zach Bagans, right? But he said, well, I'd love to like contact the city and the agency and all this stuff to try to get like an investigation. I'm like, yeah, they're not into that. Like, this is not the publicity that they want. But he's like, this is weird. This is wild. Like, if we were to take photos of like apparitions or whatever, like this would make the, top 20 probably. I said, it's weird, isn't it? So I always kind of, I felt this presence out there, and those things would happen, like the car alarm, and just like the building and stuff. I know there were weird things going on too. And the tours, I don't remember if I would feel like things have been moved within the building during a tour. But again, I was like, I came to this, and I also knew like I was the good guy, because I'm like, I'm not here to call you out, spirit, right, at Halloween or anything like that. And I'm fixing things that are broke, right? I'm rebuilding things. I'm speaking highly of the fort and the soldiers. Jefferson Davis was here. Yeah, the head of the Confederacy was stationed here as a 20-year-old. Who else was here? There were many notable Civil War. The person who was at Fort Sumter when it was turned over was here. Oh God, the poet. Who am I thinking of? With the Raven. You know the guy I'm talking about? Help me out here. He took his own life, lived in the 1800s. The Raven, the poet. Jesus, help me out here. The Raven plus Edgar Allan Poe. Poe was here. Edgar Allan Poe was here at the fort. So yeah, it got booted out. So you have this really interesting constellation of people who were at the fort. So let me go and give you a bigger image of what the fort was, so you can kind of so you can conceptualize. There's nothing really. Jesus, this is there's that's the only building left today. Unfortunately, they tore down all of the buildings. I think they just let them be scavenged, is what they did. Um, so, yeah, I gotta find the photo. I guess it's gonna go back to this. I have like all the original all the photos exist of the fort I have. Yeah. Image from Wisconsin history. Here we go. It's not great, but so there's the fort. This is from wisconsinhistory.org. So let me explain this to you. This picture, circa 1834. So the surgeon's quarters would have been, that we just saw where I gave the tours, would have been just about over here, just off to the right. So let me show you. So this would have been the Fox River would have gone by again. The fort would have been just about here. This building was like the commissary, and this would flood out all the time apparently, but because like I read the fort logs and stuff like that. This was like the last building to exist. So here was the fort itself, and this is a farm now. And the original fort well is still used by the farmer as a shallow well, still draws water from it for his animals. And this is just like field land right here. But all these buildings are gone. I don't know how many soldiers were stationed at the fort, but yeah, these barracks, it was there from like officially, I think 1828 to 1845. And unfortunately, yeah, nothing existed. And there was a fire after they stopped maintaining the fort, and then they just let the people come in and take the land, take the hardware and the wood and stuff. So there's a barn outside of town, which they allege, the barn owner, that it was built out of salvaged wood, and they can show like on where the planks were like cut into for the barracks and stuff. I'm a little iffy on that story. I looked at it myself and I was like, I don't know. It's a pretty big claim to make. And I personally think that the Catholic Church in town, which was built in the 1850s, when I was doing stuff with buildings and grounds, buildings committee for the church, that a lot of the church material I thought came from Fort Winnebago, but I was like the only one kind of thinking that way, even though you'd see like, a rafter or something and it would be notched and stuff like this. And I'd be like, well, that looks like, per what I see, like that, there's much more of an argument that this would have been brought over. It was closer to for the building of the church. But so anyway, like this area is just farmland. Now the guy who has the farm, he's like in his 70s or 80s. So it's like generational. He has a lot of things he's found out here as far as like belt buckles and, obviously, metal goods, a lot of saddle stuff. There was a stampede. The horses ran across the river one night, and there was a lot of stuff that was lost in the fields in the river. Musket balls, things like that. But he publicly has shared a little bit of what he has, but he never lets anybody onto the property. And I also believe it, just in my heart of hearts, like, because even with the fort, like me coming over there and just like even talking to him or something, like that wasn't going on. This guy's very much to himself. I think there's more. I think he found more than what he let on. And what I say is there was some story that there was gold or precious metals that were stored at the fort. And part of it, there's a whole story that goes with this, and it actually makes sense if you listen to it. It goes that there was some sympathizers in the 40s for like the Confederacy, and that if you researching like the Civil War was probably more or less slotted to start in the 40s, 1840s, but then there was the Texas War and things got held off. But there were sympathizers in Canada, and the thought would be like you'd want to get your gold like out of here, and you could get it up to Canada. And like I said, I wrote pages and pages of this, and I documents and things that I found, and I talked to like a lot of reenactors and historical researchers. But anyway, I'm not saying the guy found gold necessarily, but I do think there's a lot more to this fort or like what's going on this property. And then there's a cemetery back here it's maintained, the fort cemetery, and there's like veterans of the War of 1776 back here and stuff like that. But this whole area though it's really strange because it's just this farmland right now. I mean, there's no buildings except like he's got a barn, which is probably put up in the 1930s or 40s, but it's all open land. The river there's the steep hill isn't here anymore. It's kind of leveled off, and the river is much smaller because it's been dammed and stuff like that. But this is really strange. This whole area has this like weird paranormal vibe, and I guess I'll say that because we're coming into Halloween. But as a guide, I never felt like bad, but I felt very aware, and especially the car stuff. And then there were other things that would happen. Like I said, I think things would seem to me that they had been moved around. And then the pictures that one day I had taken all those photos, and a significant number were much different than any other days I had taken. I know the city wouldn't like me talking about any of this right now, but again, I think it's an awesome place to go through and to kind of so outside of here. So I live 2 miles from here. So if you walk out this door right here and you go like 2 miles, you'd get to where I'm at. And where I'm at, I live in the Indian Hills subdivision. So that would have been Winnebago Indians would have lived right where I'm at. Like this would have all been Native Americans living here. And then they would trade over here and get government exchanges from the Indian Agency House, which was down the road here about a half mile. So this fort though was to protect this area and to establish a presence. So it was Fort Howard in Green Bay, Fort Winnebago here, and the fort in Prairie du Chien, which fort in Prairie du Chien. What was the name of that? Prairie du Chien, Fort Crawford. So those were the three. Fort Crawford was built on top of an Indian mound, which is really weird. But so yeah, this might have been too. I mean, it's hard to say. There literally were mounds. There are still some existing mounds within a mile or two of this. But yeah, and they don't allow people to come in with ghost meters and the ghost hunting shows. They do not allow any of that with this property, right? And they wouldn't be thrilled about me talking about this, although because like kids go there, school kids and stuff like that. And I'll just say, like, things I experienced, none of it was bad, but those were authentic experiences. Again, I always felt like I'm the good guy. I'm putting the shutter back up. So Ghost of Jefferson Davis, come on. It's the fort itself has an amazing history though in the Civil War of how many generals and high ranking on both sides of the war had been stationed there from probably 1828 to 35-ish. Like it was just, these are all key players. And so it was pretty phenomenal in the fact that, yeah. And Jefferson Davis made chairs and wooden wardrobes. So there's at least one chair that he made marked that's still at the surgeon's quarters. But he would get out of here, and he was like in charge of finding wood. So they would like go north, and it was really weird, like, right? Like, so Jefferson Davis, like right here, like 2 miles, probably was walking through, where I lived. But let's see here. I need to find a boombox at a rummage sale, by the way. Z Heath, take care, buddy. I need to find like a $10 boombox. I'm not going to buy one on eBay. They're too much to ship. I want like a $10 boombox. I picked up a Longhorn Steakhouse meal yesterday, and the waitress delivering the food to my car had an Eastern European accent. Oh my goodness, you're a refugee. Wow. So, 220 volts. Mr. Mom. Yeah, it was Mr. Mom. So, let's see here. Ron Wayne, seeing is believing. So, wow. I need a ghost to blank for me to believe they are real. So, those are very interesting experiences. I'd have to go back and try to find those photos. I have them. They're all burned onto CDs and things like that, because I did a ton of stuff out there. But that one set of photos was, and I never scrutinized it really beyond that. I wonder if there'd be some things today. Jefferson Davis Monument, not far from me. Yeah. So it was kind of surreal to go through like the authentic logs of the entry of the fort and see, and Jefferson Davis and again, in that time, like a lot of this was just kept in a garage of a caretaker's house, which was on the property. So I wrote a grant where they got professional archive storage. So we put all of that in. So they didn't, all this stuff was super accessible. It wasn't behind glass. It wasn't available to the public, but I'm going and handling documents. Here's the fort log from 1831, right? The daily events. I think that stuff has been more curated since then, but it was amazing at the time just how accessible all that was. So my goodness, here you guys with the ghost. All I'm saying about ghosts is that with there being an infinite universe, this is too many choices. There is no telling what is possible. The original mover is real. Now, whether there's a consciousness or not is a question. So, yeah, I think one of the things too, when I was working, I guess, or helping out at Fort Winnebago, and I never anticipated ghosts. There was nobody talking about ghosts or ghost stories. So when this did happen, and it started to become more of an awareness, right? Like really overt, like when you're walking up and your car alarm is going off, you get within 10 feet of your car and it stops, and then it starts up again. And then at some point it's like, well, what's going on here? But it did go back to the time when I was doing some of probably the most invasive improvements, which would take out that fence between the hospital where the fort was. Now putting in the split rail fence, like there wasn't ever anything weird with that. But yeah, I used to have a lot of fun and bring a lot of energy into the tours, but there were some days too, like the building itself just kind of felt off. But again, I always kind of went with a good guy defense. I'm not taking any money from this place. I've probably, if you would have paid me to be out here for 3 years, whatever that would have been, and I donated my time and materials and talents, and my dad was here, and we rebuilt all this stuff, and so cut me a break, or maybe that was their way of saying thank you. I don't know, but yeah, there is this. I have this suspicion that this property next, well, now it's across the road, and that none of this exists anymore. Like again, it's all field, but I'm just like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure there's more remnants out here. What the locals told me was that the foundations were still visible, like when they were kids. So 40s, maybe 50s. So like a lot of these foundations were still visible, but I don't know. I'm just thinking there's more going on out there. Um, Bacon saying, having had my experience with literally the hottest on the, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow, Bacon. War, this is too many choices. This is the most insane thing that humans have kept as a vestige out of the animalistic past. Yes. Nothing good comes from war except its end. I'm with you, Ron, and I'm I'm kind of disheartened by the fact with what is happening with Ukraine right now. We don't have a major emphasis on uh, bringing peace to that, right? Of trying to broker peace. I mean, even in the episodes of MASH for the Korean War, right, there would always be the peace talks. Um, and, again, I kind of go back to Jimmy Carter after his presidency seemed to be uh, contributing a lot to efforts of peace and diplomacy. And we don't see that. And I think part of the fact that we don't see that reflects into our population and the violence we see domestically and the violence that kids exhibit in schools and stuff because they're shown on TV, right? If your path is might makes right. And I really think the time is overdue for this. So I'm really I think the world would react very favorably if there was some person, some leader, some country that would come forward and try to negotiate peace. But obviously, it's not the U.S. So who's it going to be? Would it be anybody? And it just doesn't seem to be happening. It's very disheartening from that regard. So this administration doesn't seem to be anywhere in that realm. It seems like that should be the bigger role. That should be the stand-up position of the United States is, we are working to bring a diplomatic end to this. So singing happy birthday song about a week after Halloween here for me. So Benny Ballistics is to St. Andrew. Have you been to the Parthenon in Nashville yet? Wow. I want cake. So I don't know. I like birthday cake. I'll have to see. I don't do much here on my birthdays. So, but I don't know. I've kind of been thinking about Culver's, which is a restaurant in our area, restaurant chain. You might be familiar with Culver's, but I'm kind of doing Culver's, like a mushroom Swiss burger and some chili cheese fries, which is a break from, I usually don't eat stuff like that, but maybe. Not all post hole diggers wear capes. Bolo, one thing is, like, when we did all of that stuff for the fort, we never once were in the paper. We never contacted the paper, right? Or the fort, the caretakers, like they never said, hey, like they're rebuilding the fence and stuff. And not that should have happened, but all of that was so super low key, like we never, I'm saying, like, when my dad came down, we worked on that for the couple days there and all the stuff. Like, there was never, I mean, they appreciate this. I think they had a certificate of appreciation they printed out afterwards, but I never did it for that. I just like wanted the complex to come back to a reasonable baseline. It had been deteriorated for so long. It felt really bad to go out there and, like, Ed, you've been a soldier that served here, right? To see it degrade it like that entropy, to reverse that, which we substantially did. I mean, the amount of work that we put in and how that looked before and afterwards was incredible. And not just cosmetic, like doing some lasting changes out there. So, but yeah, I have a picture too that one of the docents took while we were working. I have to find where those were. I'm not exactly sure, but like I don't even have like a lot of pictures of myself like doing that stuff out there, just a handful. And again, it was really just because it was kind of like I wasn't going to live in this community and then also like consciously just drive past a place that had such historical significance and just had such entropy. And I know people had been caretakers and they had done things to keep it from further going. I'm not saying people didn't do enough, but I knew I could do things. I knew I could bring a lot to that. So just in that moment in time, I did. I've heard of Culver's. I think that's not a thing anywhere here. Yeah, it's like a much, much better version of a McDonald's, is what I would kind of say. So yeah, it seems insane that Elon Musk speaks up about it and the media paid that more attention than the US government. Nobody wants this war, as far as I can tell, in any case. Yeah. And wasn't it something too where Musk said, at some point, so US government, you're giving cumulative now every month billions and billions because these things are cumulative to Ukraine. Like, you want to pick up the tab on Starlink, which I provided for free, so they had communications, and suddenly like he's made to be this loafer, right? Hey, like you're not keeping Starlink up, and why'd you bring it over there then? And I'm like, not the response I would have had, right, from a government, or actually like that any of this stuff ever should have made the media. Like, it seems from my perspective, the government should have been in contact with Musk and said, we will continue Starlink. So thanks for getting it set up over there. And there's no need to go public with any of this stuff. But he got framed to be the bad guy, right? Wasn't that crazy on this whole thing? Comes over there, and I'm not a big researcher of Elon Musk, one way or another, but I'm just saying he comes over there and sets up this communication system when it all flat out is wiped out pretty much because of the conflict, right? And or the war and jamming and damaged communication systems and whatever. Sets up Starlink, so people have a communication system, which is absolutely vital to survival. And it's now months into this says, hey, like there's a cost with this. And again, I think he's looking at this saying, you're sending billions of dollars over here, like pick up the cost of maintaining Starlink. And they don't, right? So, and then he's made out to be like, oh, like, you've got all this money and you put this over there. I'm like, well, he did something. Like, who else did anything? It was so weird. Like well, of course I understand why you want to spin him into this evil character, right? And this whole thing with Twitter takeover and all this evilness and getting rid of people. And like, whatever, you take over business. I mean, Al Dunlop took over Sunbeam and they fired more than half the people and closed the places. And I'm not saying it's good. It's just what happens. And it's it's business, it's capitalism, the way things are. But yeah, it's really weird. They have places in Michigan. I think they have places in Texas too. So I have a Culver story. So Craig Culver, I've met several times, who's founded Culver's. Well, he lives about a half hour from where I live. And he started Culver's with two other guys. Well, anyway, here was a story. I think here was a story. So one of the guys, there were three guys, and they were talking about starting this like restaurant chain. So he started in Sauk City, Wisconsin. Then I think Baraboo was the second. And now there's like hundreds of these franchise, and it's very good. I like it. I like Culver's. So, but he, one of the school administrators that I knew that I met with on a regular basis this was like 15 years ago. He shared, and he said, it was me and Craig Culver and somebody else. We were the three initially who were like ponying up the money to like start this franchise. And the school administrator told me, he said, I didn't think this would be successful, and I backed out of it. So he just totally took his share and just left. Nothing. At that time, it was just a restaurant. So had he invested in it, he'd have been millions beyond belief, right? Um, so that was always kind of the thing of like, dude, like you're the one that stepped out. So things worked out. It's just one of those weird things, right? I think there's a story like with Domino's Pizza or something like that too. Like it's two brothers, and one brother like settled for a Volkswagen, and then Domino's took off. Um, but yeah, so we have a Culver's by us in our town. I can actually walk to it, so it's pretty good. We have the Arby's. If I were to do anything though, it'd probably be Arby's for my birthday. So Arby's. Do they make Louisiana frog cakes? So yeah, Bobby Boucher, Louisiana frog cakes. Thank you, Bobby. So those are tasty, by the way. Got to keep them refrigerated. If you see one at a truck stop or something, give them a try. Is that a Whataburger? So, whoa. Culver's are good. Yeah, good burgers. Yeah. So when our kids were younger, so when our kids, were like 6, 6 through age 10 maybe, or just younger than 10, let's say younger than 10. What we would do is on Friday nights we would eat supper at Culver's, and then we would drive the eighth of a mile to Walmart and do our Walmart shopping for the week. So because the kids are too young to leave at home, right? And so and it was the funniest thing because my youngest daughter would get down. She'd be like 2 years old, and she would get down and push the cart from the bottom of it, where you're meant to put like the 12 pack of Coke and the cat litter like on the bottom of it. She would like push. It was so funny. But yes, that was our routine for years. As we'd go to Culver's, and that's before inflation and stuff like that. So I mean, things were really reasonable, and we'd eat and do our shopping and come home, and so now it's ever since the pandemic, we split the shopping. So I do half the shopping and my wife does half. So I did the shopping today. Yeah, actually, and now it's with the kids too. Like they have no interest in shopping anymore, so they just put their stuff on the list. But I actually like doing shopping independently, and just kind of like streamline and boom, get in and get out, and my list and stuff like that. So Arby's for your birthday. I hope I still have the Wagyu style burger. I reviewed quite a while back. They're limited time. Items seem to be darn good. So yeah, do you get a discount for your birthday? Well, another thing is like we have Asian Express here, where when I'm done teaching and on my last stop before I get home is to stop at Asian Express and get like a kung pao, and they know like kung pao shrimp, 2 egg rolls. I'm like, yes, super spicy. And oh man, that is delicious. So, but I'm kind of the only one in the family that gets into that really spicy Chinese food. So, but since it's my birthday, I don't know, to see. Anyone else have Five Guys? I have not had Five Guys burgers. Not sure if we have one around here. So have them near me, betting ballistics, but never ate there myself. Yeah. So as a kid, like we used to do, McDonald's was a big thing. Neighboring town, McDonald's, that was a big thing, and I haven't eaten at a McDonald's for probably like 10 years. That was a big thing. And Pizza Hut was a treat. That was very rare, but if you got to go to Pizza Hut as a kid, and the pizza was really good, and yeah, Pizza Hut was the dine-in experience. Pretty sad that those things are kind of erased from history. Those experiences. By the way, like I got a haircut today, so show it. All right, you guys got to see it there. So I have them cut it down to kind of nothing. So again, it looks like it just got out of the ROTC. So I like it though. Um, and it grows out fast. Like my hairstylist says, you have the fastest growing hair. And she's got my hair for 20 years. Like, any guy, like your hair grows crazy. Like it does. I mean, it is just, which is like super awesome, right? If you're 51, you're still full head of hair and it's still dark. Like I've just taken out pretty much everybody else in my high school class because a good friend of mine went bald when he was 30s, which is what it is. Um, but like it was a pretty big thing for him. He was kind of contemplating, and I guess like, well, you know, does he? What are your options? When that happens and stuff. And thankfully, this is the way it's always been. This is really the way that the hair has always been. So, but yeah, so Doc rocking the classic crew cut. Yeah, yeah, it's I like it. I used to go to I used to have McDonald's Friday nights when I was growing up, walking distance from my house. Oh my god, yeah, like a Big Mac, and like when I was in college, Burger King, like the Whopper, they had Whopper Wednesdays. A Whopper was $1 when I was in college on Whopper Wednesdays. So I mean, you got $2, you got two Whoppers, and you get some fries, and my God, and they were like, you know, regular size, not anything today. I mean, back then, or you go to Subway and you get a meatball sub, and they used to stuff like 10 meatballs in a meatball sub, and now you get like six, right? Oh my God. So I think there was this kind of golden age of fast food. I would say from maybe, 1975 to 1995, I would guess would be kind of what I would think would be like the golden age of fast food. And then things got bought out and simplified, and portion sizes changed and ingredients and stuff. But so Ron's saying, my nephew has a local barber shop. My haircut is similar to yours, but a bit longer on top to hide the shine. So yeah, there's there's everything's still there. I mean, it's pretty, I'm blessed with that. I mean, my great grandfather had his hair, had a full head of hair, and he died, I think, at age 96, working on the ice. I think he was bringing in ice in winter, like cutting ice up for the ice shed, and he slipped and fell, and then hit his head, and that's how he died. Otherwise, he was healthy. He was 96 and cutting ice and bringing ice in for the ice shed, right? That's before they had refrigerators and things like that. So yeah, so there's some good genetics going on there. So yeah, as far as genetics, like my physician said, you are in very good shape for your age compared to clients that I see. I guess not clients, patients who are your age. They tend to be overweight and just not very physically active, and just have kind of some other kind of sedentary lifestyle things that set in, or stress and some other stuff. Not that I'm immune to those, and especially stress and some things, but I just think I've tend to mitigate those pretty well, and I like being outdoors, and I like biking. I like doing things like the 600 pounds of stone and carrying 25,000 pounds of wood. And thankfully, like the mindset there, I think has really helped my body stay fit. Plus, I eat pretty well. And honestly, I eat about 2 meals a day now. It's either a breakfast or lunch, and then it's supper, and then that's it. So if it's a breakfast, it's like cornflakes and cranberries, dried cranberries, and maybe a yogurt. And supper is, whatever it is. So I'm not snacking during the day. And like some days when I bike, I mean, I might bike 75 miles. And I get up in the morning and I'll have a couple bananas and a 24-ounce black coffee, and that'll be it. I mean, I'll take some stuff with me that I'll eat like halfway on my biking, but I'm not really putting a lot of calories out there. And at night, if I want a snack, I always keep about 10 tins of sardines in the room next to me. And I love sardines, so, a couple times a week, I'll crack open a can, maybe after a show like this, have some sardines. They're really good for you. I mean, a lot of protein and, you got the omega 3s going, but I love sardines. I actually put a little hot sauce on them. So, yeah, I love when I worked at the school for the blind, one of the custodians, and he was like, he was retiring that year. John, great guy, absolutely great guy. But we were getting, we're talking, and he shared like he loved sardines too. I think he had been in the military and stuff like this. And so like once a week, we would bring in cans of sardines and we'd just have lunch in my office. And he was a big history buff on like Comanche Indians and kind of just all like a Native American movement across the U.S. back in like the 1800s. And he brought in books and would share them with me. And so we'd have these really fascinating talks because actually the School for the Blind was when that was built. I mean, there's a whole section in there of like artifacts they found on the property when they built that. It's right in the front. So we would have these amazing conversations, but we had sardines and crackers, and we were both happy as heck with that. So good night to Misty. Well, fellers, I gotta head to bed. Work starts early in the morning. Laugh hello. Good night all. Well, Misty, Mrs. Wayne, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll be back on Wednesday when Bending Ballistics is here at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, and that is going to be amazing. Wow, such a blessing to be able to have tremendous guests come on to the show. That is Safety Doc Podcast 192 officially. So, Misty, Mrs. Wayne, catch some shut eye and have a terrific Tuesday. Thank you for being here. Ron is saying, hey, I got to bail out. Great stream, Doc. Look forward to Wednesday. Thank you, Ron. Very much appreciate it. And send me an email and, your convenience and say, Doc, here's what I like to talk about. Here's some of my interests, some of my specialties, and or even if you can formulate that a little bit into, here's what it might look like in a show. But if not, I can get us there. I can look at it and say, well, let's consider some of these things. I'd love to have you on the show, Ron. So appreciate that. Mike is saying, hey, we have a local chain called Brighton Hot Dog Shop. Every once in a while, I'll get hot dogs with chili, cheese and onions, and a large cheese fry. God, that sounds delicious. So, Mike, we have every Thursday, and I think the last one is coming up. This week, this Thursday. It's the farmer's market. I got to pick up some salsa from the, tremendous salsa there. But there is the hell is it? The Elks Club across the road has a brat fry every time they do the farmer's market. So you can get a brat and chips and soda. And usually I just get a brat. Or a couple brats. So they grill them up, and then they always have grilled onions and sauerkraut and so you get to sit out there kind of on their porch. Like it's a 120-year-old building and downtown. And I love it. Like I go down there and I'll get some farmer's market stuff or do whatever I have to do there. And then I'll go over and grab a brat or two. So again, which I don't have very often, but just such a treat. Probably the reason I've lost a lot of weight. I'm not eating those type of things, but boy, they are good sometimes. So let's see here. Benny Ballistics update. There are several A&Ws in Western Washington State, most in the Tacoma area. That's on the list for a Friday night show, fast food review. Yeah. A&W had good. We have a Dairy Queen here with the actual, the burgers and stuff are pretty good. You kind of don't think about it that way, but yeah. Well, Jim is saying, wasn't Del Taco like the better version of Taco Bell? There was one, but I think they closed shop. I remember a Taco John's and a Taco Bell. I haven't been in Taco Bell for so long, and I really miss that. And I'm not there because they just changed the menu and it's just not good anymore. They took away the steak soft taco and the chili cheese burritos. So like, I don't want a Kentucky fried gordita. It's not my thing. So, the menu's just changed. Plus, the you have to order through the drive-through, and the drive-through is really difficult to navigate. I got a bigger car, and that's really narrow, and I don't want to mess my rims up. It sounds kind of petty, but anyway, I'm just really sad though that Taco Bell has changed its menu. So yeah, very very sad about that. Um, nothing nothing wrong with brats and other processed meats. It's not those themselves. Ground beef is technically processed. Yeah, more of the things they're served with. Yeah, I don't, because they're like, well, do you want to make it a meal? Do you want a Coca Cola and a bag of Lay's chips? And I'm like, nope, I'm good. I don't. All I need is, yeah, just the brat. So I understand for 50 cents more, I could get these other things, but I'm good. Mike is saying our local Elks Club does Friday fish fries. Oh God, yeah. When I was growing up, pretty much every Friday was a fish fry, and I loved it. And it was the endless fish fry. Like you could eat as much fish and French fries as you wanted. And I haven't been to a fish fry in ages. So, wow. Bacon saying to Ron and Misty, I'd say don't do anything I wouldn't do, but that I don't even know I can count on. Oh my goodness. Bacon. So, oh my goodness. So let's see what else is happening here. All right. Hold down here before long in the studio. So I'm living on borrowed time in t-shirt weather down here. So it's one of those weird things, one of those weird good things, right? When you lose weight in a good way and kind of get fit, like suddenly a certain part of your wardrobe kind of gets like loose and baggy, but it's like, oh, I got to put some pounds on so it fits again. But I kept some of my nicer shirts from when I was back, like in the 180s. Those are kind of fitting again, but yeah. And the thing with sport coats is I have a few 46 regulars. And those were just like because I found them at Goodwill and they were $7. But 46 regulars, a little big. It depends like on the chest area. The shoulders are okay. 44 regulars my normal. So they fit a little big. And those are ones that if I'm just more like in winter, if I'm presenting somewhere or something like that, is I'll throw on a bigger sport coat. But Saltude's saying Doc is in great voice tonight. He sounds like the narrator from the Ralphie Christmas movie. What was it called? A Christmas Story? They run it 24 hours on TNT on Christmas. Oh, and the haircut is looking tight, Doc. Thank you. We'll do one more on the haircut. All right, that's enough. I love these headphones, by the way. These I want to say AstraZeneca, but that's a drug for blood pressure, isn't it? Or Audio Technica. I think I said that to somebody once. They're like, "What kind of headphones did you order?" I'm like, I think AstraZeneca's. It's like prescription headphones. I'm like, damn right. Doctor ordered them. Oh my god, I don't want to think about snow. So is it hot in here? Whoa! This one's pretty good too. My youngest daughter, who's in middle school, she has a class project, and it's a book review. Some books that they were assigned and whatever. But so one of the options is she can do a podcast, like book review. But the thing is, like, you're not supposed to put it online. You're supposed to like put it on a thumb drive if you do this. So, and then they show it in school, like different ways to show that you understand the book. So she's like, I want to do like a podcast. I'm like, no problem. Like, I'm glad. Let's do that. But the other part is, like, I think it's due in a week. And this project, she told me this a week ago. So I have to remind her, because I said, you got to realize, like, I'm not sure what you're thinking, but if we're going to do like a little intro for you and, things like that, an interview, and kind of do a little bit of editing, I need some time. So like, you can come down and I could set some stuff up but we did some videos when she was younger for school. She had a project where we made this, it was like a 24 ounce or 2 liter soda thing that you use to keep a plant watered. You put a little hole in the end of it and then fill it with water. So if you're going to be gone for like a week, your plants don't die. So we made that and put it on a thumb drive, right? It's not out there on YouTube and stuff, but we edited it together, and I watched it the other night because she was only like 7 or 8 at the time. It was just the funnest video of, she's sitting there, and then she has the drill, and I'm staying behind her, and she's drilling the holes in it. And then, she's doing her little script. And of course we edit it, and she had some little song at the start of it that we put in. It's good stuff. Audio Technica, Mad Ed's made some decent stuff. Yeah. These are M50s. So it's $180 headphones. They're really good. Like I've never had headphones, where I spent this much money. They're really good. Ton of reviews. And again, just talking to people, I'm like, what do you use and whatever. And the Shure microphone is just phenomenal. Lights out awesome, this thing. And the fact that it has like the live LED lights coming on here for the stuff. But the headset, at first I was like, it was so different than my other headsets. And now I'm like used to it. Just like I really, really appreciate it. And it's like for monitoring audio, but honestly, like if I just throw on some music, it's like light years beyond anything that I had for a headset before. And then I've got my HyperX, which has the mic in front for kind of like just calls and stuff that I do with that. So yeah, I'm glad I put the money into the technology, because it really has made a difference. Like, this microphone is so much better than my Yeti. And I also think my Yeti was just having some issues. I think it was better when it was newer. And I did use that Yeti for many years. And, but this is just so much better than the Yeti. Those standalone diners are great finds. Have done several around here, all good places. We've got one in the neighboring town, which it's always, we went there last week when my parents were here, and it was a 45-minute wait to get in. And, but it's well worth it. And as I had to tell them, well, not really. My dad was pretty chill about it, but my mom's like, well, let's go somewhere else. I'm like, no. Like, it was nice weather outside. You can wait in the car if you want. It won't be, time will go by, but they're busy because they're so good, right? And they have such a variety of a menu. And so this is like where you want to eat, because, right, they're not busy because they're understaffed. They're busy and the parking lot is full because this is a really good place to eat. I'm also thinking for my birthday, but that really won't work because my birthday's on a Monday. But there's a place where my wife used to live back before we got married, a town, It's not close, a couple hours from here, but they have a really good family restaurant. Um, so yeah, I have this weird thing going on in my arm. So I have hair growing, but it's like beard type hair. There's a small patch on the other arm. So my doctors identified it. It's some quote unquote condition, but it's not like bad. It's just like some people have this where that grows. But I need to like get it removed, like electrolysis, because it bothers me. Like even you cut it down, but if you like go over it, you suddenly hit this like sandpaper part because it's literally like beard type hair. And so this is the arm where they did the surgery. They took out I had a baseball size mass in this arm. And that was about, I don't know, 12 years ago, maybe. So there's a scar here that from here to here is the scar. Kind of, they did a great job and you never know. But this had grown literally the size of a baseball in my arm. So it was really grotesque. Like I'd always wear long sleeve shirts and you never really could see it, right? But I went in and they didn't know what the hell it was. Like they were kind of preparing me for all the different scenarios of what it could be. And I think it was back in 2008. I had it cut out, but it was what it was a lipoma, which is a big fatty mass. So they took a picture of it and then they put a ruler next to it, and it literally was the size of a baseball. And then it's been fine ever since. They sewed things up and, didn't impact the muscle, didn't impact. I wonder if I have that, the picture of that. You're like, God, don't share that. But, where would it be here? Let me take a quick look around the dial, up and down the dial. Baby, you and me were never meant to be. By the way, let's take a look here. This is a picture of the original Safety Doc podcast studio. So this is when I started. And I had a HP monitor, Hewlett Packard, a bigger monitor here's, I still have this arm. Here's my old headset. Here's my Blue Yeti. Here's a cup of coffee I'd photoshopped in. So like I totally, I updated the office and I had two small monitors on the side. So this was the original studio, right here. Yeah. The Safety Doc podcast, probably what was this, about 2016, maybe, 2015, 2016, the original studio. So yeah, it's changed a lot. Changed a whole lot since then. My God, that's vintage. I never kind of thought I'd see that again, but yeah, let me. I got a couple pictures here. I'll show you guys. So here's me in 1992. This is in the parking. I'm parked in front of my parents' house, and this is before their house is done. So this was a new cul-de-sac added in. So you can tell there's just gravel. The house isn't done yet. I had my Kelly Charger tires on my LeBaron. The headlights would fold down, all metal. This is me. And so I would have been, 21 years old with my LeBaron. And that had a burgundy interior on it. And that car was awesome. I would detail that thing out like crazy. And I always kept the Kelly Chargers would go like 30,000 miles because they were like super soft tires. So you'd get about 2 years at most out of them, or year and a half. I got my plug on the front of the car here to plug it in. The heating, this car would never start on its own under like 30 degrees. Always had to be plugged in. But oh man, this was such a sad story, the end of this one, because and it had the little computer tell you like how many miles you're getting. This is an 88 LeBaron. and it it had like a little flag on the antenna right here, flag. But the car had 144,000 miles on it, and the electrical was starting to go wonky. And I had the body kind of redone on it, but it I was about to have the whole thing like restored, like, and the electrical was going bad. So I just traded it in, and literally it barely made it to where I traded it in for the 1996 Dodge Intrepid. But this was an awesome car, and this was my college car too, and it was cool. Like, and people be like, hey, like I want to ride in the LeBaron, and then the headlights like coming down, and um, to be young and to have a car like this personally, like, was just a really big thing. So yeah, it was because you can see the front of my dad's F-150s back there. So my God, I didn't even know that picture existed anymore. So here's a not so flattering picture, but um, here's me in 2013. I still have that O'Neill sweatshirt, by the way, which I like. So I was about 240 pounds. Here's me in 2015. So I dropped from 240 to like 177 or something. So, you know, and then I had some different stuff in the back here, and I'm holding up a laptop, but this looks good, but I also like, this looks kind of freaky on the right. But over here, yeah, it was 240, and over here like 177. So yeah. I kind of look older in this picture almost than I think I look today. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Really shiny in that picture, but yeah, I don't know. The 240 wasn't good though. It just wasn't good. This is a cool one. So this was back in 2019, the Duluth Huskies game, and I'm standing in front of the thing to get my picture taken, and that was my daughter. Still is my daughter, but I love this visor. I only wear it certain days. This is when I threw out the opening pitch. Yeah, 2019. Got the ball over here, so it's cool. There at the stadium, got the great treatment there. I don't know if we're gonna have any luck here with the. Not that the lipoma is a really big, like, oh my God, I didn't get to see the lipoma. So, all right. And what's in here? Is that it? No. Other photos. Oh, just the PBS stuff. Huh. I don't know where it is. I don't know where I've got that. Let me check one more place. Okay. I put together this really weird file system a few years ago, so it's never. Oh, wait a second. I think I know where it is. It's really hard to navigate. Storm. Burn camcorder as both superior. Let's try this. I don't know what that is. Let's try this. All right. Just hang with me. The Eep from Ipanema. Here it is. Guys, I got it. Pretty gross. So a little gross out. So I'll give you like a heads up here. So this is they drew that where they were going to cut the football thing on here. So you can see like this is a big area. Like this literally was the size of a baseball. So let me show you I'll put it in black and white here too. I have the black and white version. So this now this is a little squeamish for you guys, all right? So just take it easy. So this is my arm right here where the cut was. This is what they pulled out of there. Yeah, and that was the size of a baseball. So they had it afterwards in a jar. Then they sent it to pathology. And it was just fat. It was lipoma, and they think what happened was when we first moved here, I was taking down a big privacy fence, and it kind of shifted and fell, and it hit my arm, and it put a big bruise on it. And they think part of the response of my body with that bruise that this lipoma had started. This really isn't a thing for me. So they said that's usually how things like this can get a start. So, and again, they took it out and sewed it up. You can't tell today, but again, it was just growing and growing and growing. So yeah, icky, just horrible, gross stuff, right? Size of a baseball coming out of your arm. But it was weird though, when originally when I went in, and the doc was great doc, by the way, absolutely phenomenal doctor. But he's meeting with me and he's saying, you know what? We don't know what this is, man. You got to kind of prepare yourself for like really bad news here because, it seems to move around. It seems to be isolated, but if it's like a tumor and it's not a lipoma, then, something with this size, right? This could be really bad news for you. And I remember like, a couple docs and he had them in there and I'm like, well, I guess it is what it is, right? We got to find out what's going on. So, and then once I didn't know until after they took it out of what was going on. And they said, all's good. And so it's been out, like what, 12, 15 years and everything's all good. But yeah, oh my God, that was wild. Because you're kind of thinking, as a younger person, like, holy God, like I don't want to, well, none of us, right? But what do you do if they tell you it's cancer, right? And then if it's that big of cancer in your arm, I mean, that can't be good going forward, right? So, I don't know, but anyway, I'm just really, really glad things didn't end up in that direction. So hit the like is too many choices. Yeah, we're up to 16. Hit the watch hours. Put it on replay. Help us out. So yeah. Your body literally hulked up in the wrong way, says Bacon. It was weird because it was this big on just the left arm. And it got to where like wearing polo shirts was weird and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think initially the doctor, which isn't my current doctor, my physician at the time said, "Oh, it was a bicep tear, and that was likely just muscle that had grown on the bicep." And really never talked about like, well, is there anything we should do about it, or cosmetically, is there anything we can do about it? And yeah, so then when I came in and got this a couple of years later with this other doc who kind of specializes in these type of things, and then he's like, "Well, yeah, we'll get it out of there, but we have no idea kind of what's going on." Jim is saying, I had a benign tumor some years back from smoking. My neck, the doctor doing the surgery, I thought he wasn't going to make it through the surgery. Holy smokes. You don't think the doctor was going to make it through, or he didn't think you were going to make it through? But I'd say the neck is a rough area. We have a cat that has a lipoma kind of up on his shoulder area, and it seems to be getting larger. And I think we have to make a decision on surgery. And hopefully, he's about maybe 10 and 11 years old, otherwise healthy. It doesn't seem like, but I think it is just a lipoma. They had kind of checked and moved it around, but it is growing and getting bigger. And I think that should come off of him. It's kind of a weird thing. Oh my goodness. Wow, Jim, that's not good. So yeah, you need your physician to be on their game when they're doing a surgery like that. So yikes. Um, yeah, I that was an odd thing with that arm, and I kind of wonder like what would have happened if nothing would have been done. Like how that if that largely I guess would have just been continue to grow. But luckily, both the surgeon and myself made it through. Holy smokes, man, that is some wild stuff to hear about, my friend. Um, let's go back here to the time machine file. What in the world is going on here? Like I said, I need to spend some time with my. Um, here we go. My system to get this organized a little bit better. Trying to see if there's any. Let's bring up the Duluth Huskies. Oh, that's a video. That's the video that's out there. I have some of those spiking photos. I think those are already out there. So, what else here? What else are we going to stumble upon? Um, um, oh, yeah. Here's an interesting photo. So, bring this one up. All right, man. You want to talk about old school? Here's Doc, number 7, UW Marathon County Huskies. Or Wausau there. I got my jersey. I think I got it tucked in my pants, and I'm wearing my Seiko Kinetic watch. I am probably at that time at quarterback. I have the jersey somewhere here. I still have that jersey, that one I do have. That's when they used to do those wide mesh. And again, I tucked it in for some reason. I probably weighed, that's probably about 235, 240 there. I might have been more actually. Yeah, I still have the playing card. I still have the my rookie card. That was when they used to do that. There's a handful of those out there. So it's back in the early days of trading cards. So, oh, here, get this one. Look at this dude, man. I tucked in my jersey and into my pants. Well, obviously, where else are you going to tuck it in? I've got my big Kinetic watch there. I think that watch cost me $1,000, and I no longer own it. It's kind of as cool, and I liked it. I guess it was cool, but I'm not really a watch guy anymore. But so yeah, it was all the jerseys, the Huskies, and my name was obviously on the back of this, but still have the jersey, the game jersey. It's a little ripped up, but still have it. Yeah, I was probably a 36 waist then. I mean, look at this. This is crazy. There's a holy smokes, man. Can I? All right, let's do this. Oh my God. I have to find that jersey again. I know I kept it. I think I got it stored in the room next to me. So, holy smokes, guys. Number 7. Yeah. Oh my God. That is an image I haven't seen in years. So, holy smokes. Wow. I'm kind of surprised by that a little bit, um, just because I hadn't thought about that for so long. So, um, yeah. So here's a pit. Well, that's not a good one. Let's be a little careful here of what we decide to put out there on the interwebs. But holy smokes, man! There were a lot of pictures too. Like our house, we did so many things to it. So it's much different than when we moved in. Um, so that is it's pretty crazy. Oh my god, yeah, original kitchen counter stuff, and oh my god, trying to find anything I can. Oh my god. Okay, so I had this graphic equalizer left over from my stereo system. This thing was amazing. An octave changing. This Gemini was made in like 1982, I think, literally. And then, and it had all the individual lights that would come up here. And these would be very slow moving. There was a lot of resistance. You could flick and change your octave levels. And I sold this thing for like $50. It's probably priceless. And the handle's on the front because you put it inside of a rack. It came from a band. And, but anyway, I don't know if I feel really bad that I got rid of it because like I just don't do this stuff today anymore. But that equalizer was awesome. Holy smokes, man. Even for the looks of it, I just wish I still had that today. So yeah, DJing gear. This thing was incredible. An octave changing equalizer. So yeah, you would be able to flip it, and so that was really cool. Oh man, that makes me sad. Oh, here's another picture of it. That thing was a beast. Really heavy. Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, I had no use for it, and I took those pictures actually down here in the studio. So in the North Star recording studio. What a day. What a day. So Mike McLuhan, Mama's a retired RN after 40 plus years. And I didn't know how she did it sometimes. She was a shift supervisor when she retired from the county nursing home. Wow. Absolutely. Yeah. Benny Ballistics. I look at old high school pics of me when I was ripped and in shape. I've since let myself go. Well, age is part of that equation, right? Entropy of age kind of hits all of us, buddy, right? But yeah, those are some crazy pictures to look back on for sure. Gemini DJing gear, man, that was a really cool EQ. So 40 years I've dated nurses, and that can be a rough job. Yeah, my mother-in-law was the head of nursing at a clinic for many years. I retired about 10 or 15 years ago from that. But yeah, I kind of think my youngest daughter, my middle school daughter, is going to track into that nursing career. I think that also would be a good match for her, but of course, that is really demanding. So parametric, those are really cool what they do. So yeah, man. Well, those things that you really value, like that whole stereo system at one point was like 6 foot tall in components, and all these awesome speakers that I had, with it, and custom rack that I built, and then at the end, you just don't. It just wasn't valuable, wasn't interesting to me. And you start family and house and stuff like that, and I didn't want to move it, so I got I sold most of it pretty cheap, I think, to a relative, and then like the equalizer I kept, and then I sold that later, literally for like $50. So you can change both the frequency and the boost or cut fancy stuff. Not something you find at Best Buy. Yeah. I wonder what that authentically would cost like today, like that specific equalizer. I would assume hundreds of dollars, but maybe the fact is that all of that is just electronically controlled today. So Mike is saying, "Oh, I have some girlfriends in healthcare. They can be a rough bunch for sure. Give me a run for my money. Drinking in their mouths can make a sailor blush." Oh my goodness, Mike! Wow, benefit right of what having a girlfriend as a nurse, right? Mike would be, medically, if anything happened, to you, they would be able to help you out with a different level of, oh well, yeah, like you got to put a splint or pressure here, or like here's taking your vitals. So I already called 911, so I can give that information, or like here's a reaction to whatever. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Sometimes people ask me, they'll be like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a professor. What do you teach?" I'm like, "Law." Why not? Well, actually, it's accurate, but I'm not a lawyer. But if you say like study chaos and you write books about chaos and these other things, it's too abstract for people to kind of get their minds around that. I do special consulting. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of legal work. It's hard to explain, right? So you just got to kind of go with the path of least resistance, where people kind of understand. Okay, they know what a professor is, and they know what law classes are, and just leave it at that. But yeah, so after a while, you get to know people, and sometimes you go into little deeper things. So I do this. I've done some expert witness stuff, right? Whatever. But the books, that usually surprises people if they're not aware of it. So they're in our library right here, or whatever. So good thing was they all knew my mom, but they could not tell her about any of my stories. Partying. Oh my goodness, Mike. Oh yeah, there's a reason I love Nurses Endowed. Whoa. Bacon. Oh my goodness. I DJ'd a little. I let it go. Now DJs make almost nothing due to internet. People paid more when they saw the stacks and stacks of records or whatever come inside with the amps and speakers. Yeah, that's the thing, Jim, right? I mean, so like the equalizer's awesome. So an audiophile, I'm sure would love that, or I don't know where it's at now, like once I had sold it, but otherwise, right, it's that era is kind of moved to a digital age. And you're right, there is something that's been lost in that. I remember obviously the high school dances and stuff where the DJs, did bring in their records. And so, yeah, our friend Chuck Mack DJs here, friend of the show, and who's been on the show, the Pittsburgh Batman is DJ. But yeah, I do have to find a boombox though, for the garage. So I've been checking Craigslist, and there's nothing around here, and anything that is way too high priced. I'm like, I'm not going to give you $40 for a 1984 Sanyo boombox. It's not happening. So people have this weird. I'm like, new in 1984, it was that much, and it only will really work for radio because nobody has tapes anymore, and but people get really weird with some of their pricing on things. That's why this moving sale, these people had pretty much everything at nothing. And I said there were good things there, but things I didn't need. And then that barrel really was a downer because I'm like, oh man, like if I had room in my garage, like boom, I would rearrange like all of these things and put them in the barrels, different stakes for gardening stuff. But I'm like, it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm like, I could bring it downstairs, put fire kindling in it, but then that's just not real effective either. I kind of have a system that's satisfactory for that. So and I don't want to end up at some point with this big blue barrel I have to try to get rid of. But yeah, that was cool stuff. The stereo had me a little interested, but then I was like, it's just, I don't want a lot of space taken up out there. So, well, guys, what is it here? Let's get to the, let's do this. So I'm going to take myself out for a second so you can just get a look at Wednesday's. All right. So are we, it's like apparently it's not working to do that, but anyway, does this work? Does not. Well, arming teachers and high school trap shooting. So we have betting ballistics on. Be a great show on Wednesday, 8:30. Come join us. Also, my good friends here, before you hit the hay for the night, break out your credit card or PayPal or PayFriend and go to downpour.com and get School of Airs, Rethinking School Safety in America. Listen to me. I am 6 hours narrating that book. It's professionally edited, put together, leveled. It's an audiobook, right? Recorded it in studio, and you're going to enjoy it. So, yeah, 10.99. You've got it forever. Really energetic narration going on there. Really well done. So, yeah, get in there. Come on, 10.99. You've got 6 hours of listening. That's crazy, and it's good stuff. I mean, there's so much in there, right? So yeah, read, review, Amazon, please, Amazon, leave a review, School of Airs, and philosophy of information. So, well, the same way we came in is the way we're coming up. But I have to do something over here, folks, before we exit, and I have to double check that I do not have any meetings scheduled for tomorrow because I have a little bit of an open calendar going on here at the moment, where I allowed a few people to book themselves into my calendar for some times that I put. But the problem with that is, no, tomorrow's open. Wednesday's pretty hot. Interesting. Very interesting. So, okay. So I'm just like, I don't want anyone to book a meeting at 8:00 in the morning, right? And I'm still sleeping. So, that's weird. Weird stuff, I tell you. Weird. All right. And again, so nice. That was 75 degrees, walking around, made to sweep all the way around, came back. Probably took me about 3 hours. So this is just one part of it, right? So yeah, I live just up from here. Follow the arrow up there. So, all right. Well, let's do a final sweep of the chat. And the audiobook isn't Amazon World Services. I don't know. It's on Amazon. You can get it. It's on Audible. Yeah, it's there. I signed the Audible agreement. So it's the thing is, like, it's more money. Audible increases the price. It's weird. I don't have any say over the price, but Amazon and Audible change your book prices. They typically bump them up. So, like I said, it's a weird thing. So Night Dog, Betting Ballistic. Yeah, I will see you Wednesday. The Beaver Bobcats. I was in a district that had the beaver was the mascot for the district. So, yeah. All right. Drat. I don't know. I think it is, right? Jim, the book is out. You shouldn't have any problem finding the audiobook. And again, so it's good. Well, we will yeah. Let's get over here too. Well, I appreciate all of you guys, and there's some background music here, so yeah. I don't know if it's coming through, but it's a pretty worthless feature. So I'm glad it's not on. But I'm going to take us out. Everybody have a good night. Appreciate it that you're here. And I look forward very much to Wednesday's show with Bending Ballistics. So we'll take us out with our traditional flying mishap in Canada. And here we go.
How were the beans and chili that you had for breakfast?
They were delicious. Thank you for asking. But now I am very gassy.
I'm sorry to hear that. Who let the frogs out? Pew, that stinks very bad. I have to open the window. Oh no, my cap flew off and it was sucked into the engine.
Holy smokes, the engine just cut out. We should use the Decide model to help us make the right decision.
Mayday. Mayday. I am declaring a beans and chili emergency. Please advise for landing.
Flight 019er, 2 miles northeast. Turn left at 90. Maintain 4,800 to establish an approach. Engine 5, dispatch. Pockets of fire all around.
As chaos erupts, torrents of conflicting yet urgent messages gush from media outlets. What is the magnitude of the incident, and what should people do to protect themselves? Dr. David P. Perodin teaches you how to prevent mental burnout by observing indicators and building a robust member check network. Reporter James David Dixon of the Detroit News proclaims, "The velocity of information will empower its readers." Drawing on current events, history, interviews, and scholarship, the velocity of information is an education in the way people react and adapt to change in this fast-spinning world. Never has it been more important to sift facts and stories for truth and meaning. There are teachable moments on every page. Buy The Velocity of Information, Human Thinking During Chaotic Times. Available from your favorite bookstore or online retailer.